在线上参与的法国国会议员 Mr. Dominique Potier， 以及我们监察院王幼玲委员，还有几位老委员，在场的我们所有的贵宾、所有的女士、先生，大家午安，大家好。
好。
很荣幸今天代表劳动部受邀参加由法国在台协会所举办的降低强迫劳动的研讨会。那这一场研讨会其实非常具有特殊的意义。那我们也希望透过这个研讨会，能够一同来探讨，在欧盟2022年所通过的尽职调查法所带来的影响。那在相关的改善强迫劳动的方面，那我们也希望能够透过研讨会，大家所共同针对供应链中所有的利害关系人的一些经验的分享，我们希望能够促进彼此的交流跟互动。那也相信对于台湾的劳工的权益，我们在移工的人权保障上，能够有更多的启发跟精进。那台湾的企业其实众所皆知，我们在全球的供应链中，其实扮演了非常重要的一个角色。那企业与人权的议题，也成为国际之间的经贸协定谈判当中一个重要的一个关键。那也特别强调，在经贸整合的过程当中，我们需要企业能够从保障基本的劳动人权，来作为整个企业发展的一个基础。所以我们今天也非常感谢在线上的我们 Mr. Dominique Potier 议员所主讲的欧盟及法国尽职调查法。那这一个部分也能够透过来自法国的投资的代表，我们今天也特别有看到丰裕惠理投信以及法国的施耐德电机的郭总经理，那以及在马来西亚也有代表来分享我们供应商的一个经验。那此外，我们今天这个研讨会也邀请到辛炳龙教授，也能够来分享企业参与、负责任的商业联盟在台湾的实务作业以及典范的一个做法。那同时，我们也非常感谢法国在台协会与法国国界劳动人权组织办理这样的一个研讨会。那我们希望能够透过各界来认识欧盟的尽职调查法这个新的一个法规，能够带来新的机会以及未来可努力的一个方向。其实劳动部长期以来对于尊严劳动，尤其在移工的劳动人权方面，其实我们尽了非常大的努力。我们也希望能够确保每一个在台湾工作的劳工，不管是本国劳工或外籍移工，都能够有一个安稳、安全跟安心的一个工作环境。那我们希望能够让移工在台湾顺利工作与生活，我们提供了非常多的协助。我们从来台前，我们在2008年也推动直接聘雇，我们跟各个来源国希望能够透过双边的一个合作，除了透过中介招募移工来台以外，我们也希望能够透过国对国的一个模式，能够让移工减轻他的一个负担，能够顺利的来台工作。那此外，其实我们在国境线上，在机场，我们也首次的创立了机场服务。我们希望每一个落地的移工，在踏到台湾的第一步，都能够接到我们政府对他的一些服务跟关怀。所以我们提供了相关的一些资讯跟一个接机的一个服务的一个过程。那来台之后，其实我们希望能够建构一个友善的一个环境。所以我们跟地方政府跟相关的部会，其实已经建立了相关的移工的劳权的一个网络。那这里面包含在地方政府，我们有咨询，有双语人员，我们也提供所有的移工在这里有任何的问题，我们有195的专线。那所有的这些问题，透过我们的一个逐案的一个调查跟理清之后，我们希望能够尽到最大的一个保护。我们也建制了一个庇护安置的一个机制。那对于他的工作权益，如果因为受到一些不当的对待，我们也协助转换雇主。那我们在去年特别也针对我们在台湾的移工，我们认为不只是从过去一个短期性， 我们希望能够未来也能够留任我们的资深移工。所以我们在去年推动了移工留才结构方案，我们在今年也会特别要成立一个专案服务中心。我们希望让资深在台湾也愿意跟我们一起打拼的移工，能够有一个未来可长可久的一个工作环境，跟更好的一个劳动待遇。那另外，我们在今年其实对于家事移工的议题，我们也投入相当多的心力。我们在1月1号，我们成立了善事服务中心，所有的家事移工来台，我们希望能够进行3天的这样的一个录播讲习。那当然，这个讲习的内容，因为时间的一个限制下，我们没有办法包山包海什么都讲，但是绝对能够把必须要知道、应该要知道、特别重要的一个资讯，我们希望透过这样的机制，让家事移工能够了解。我们希望能够促进劳资之间的和谐，也避免产生一些摩擦，甚至一些违法。那这些其实都是在我们持续努力的一个过程当中，我们其实在劳动部的各单位里面都一直在处理。那当然，这里面我们必须不可否认，我们还有更多还要再努力。我们包含在场我们的监察委员，其实对过去劳动部有很多的期许，也希望我们能够持续来改善。那这些工作其实我们都还是持续在进行。当然这一部分我们劳动部责无旁贷，会继续来努力。那我们也希望我们能够透过这一次的一个研讨会，我们能够让这个日后在台湾的这个移工的一个政策，我们能够导入更多的一个劳权的意识。那尤其是强迫劳动这个议题，就台湾劳动部的立场，我们绝对反对，绝对坚持彻查。我想这个议题绝对不会允许有任何一个相关的一个空间的存在。我想这一部分不只是政府，我们也希望透过民间共同来一起来努力。那我相信今天的这样的一个研讨会，能够对于我们劳动部未来在政策的规划上，绝对能够提供相关的注意。我们也希望透过这样的研讨会，在法制面的强化上，我们未来有一个更明确的一个方向。那最后，我们再次感谢我们今天法国在台协会的协助，主办今天这样的活动。也再次感谢我们今天出席会的所有的团体与会的贵宾，我们能够针对这个议题提供更多的宝贵的意见。我们在此也庆祝我们今天的活动顺利圆满，也希望我们在场的各位嘉宾身体健康，事事如意。谢谢。
Thank you very much, And now please welcome the organizer, Deputy Director of French Office in Taipei, Ms. Potier for opening address. Please welcome. 掌声欢迎。
Thank you very much for your words. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be here today on behalf of the French office in Taipei to attend this seminar dedicated to the risk of forced labor and to the sharing of experience to tackle the issue, along with the Ministry of Labor, with the NGOs, Human Resources Without Borders, and Serve the People Association and all the stakeholders. Forced labor, often associated with human trafficking and economic exploitation, is a worldwide concern. In 2013, the Rana Plaza tragedy has made the whole world aware that forced labor has not disappeared. It also highlighted that this issue concerns all of us. By all, I mean all the regions in the world, but also all stakeholders, including governments, NGOs, companies and their supply chains, and investors. We all have a significant role to play to detect, prevent, and reduce the risk of forced labor. The French office is happy to work together with Taiwan to tackle this issue that concerns us all. As democracies and economies fully integrated to the world, we believe that it is our duty as a responsibility to coordinate our efforts and take all means to prevent the risk of forced labor and try and eliminate it. We are pleased to support through this seminar the work of the French and Taiwanese NGOs, Human Resources Without Borders, and Serve the People. They are keys to raise the level of awareness among stakeholders and to help identify concrete solutions and experimentations. And we have witnessed this already through our partnership with Human Resources Without Borders since 2020. From a national perspective, France adopted in 2017 a law on due diligence that creates duties for companies to tackle human rights violations that may arise throughout their supply chains. And I take this opportunity to express special thanks to French Member of Parliament Dominique Potier, who played a critical role in the adoption of this law. The due diligence law tackles companies since their full awareness and engagement are crucial. But to address this global challenge, a directive on due diligence is also being negotiated and almost adopted among European member states at the EU level. The work carried out with our European partners in the directive on due diligence is based on the same observation, namely that to solve the global problem which arises in globalized supply chains, we must have companies on board. But also that most of all we need to act collectively, together, to eliminate this global issue. In this perspective, we believe that today's seminar is an important first step, and we hope that it will pave the way for the cooperation with France, Taiwan, and all stakeholders on reducing the risk of forced labor. In conclusion, I wish us all very fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director. I'd like to invite you to please come to the stage. Let's take this opportunity. We'd like to take a group picture of our VIPs and our speakers of Part 1 and Part 2 today. So I'd like to once again welcome Director General of Workforce Development Agency of Ministry of Labor, Mr. Taiko Liang, to once again join in the picture on the stage. And now I'd like to welcome our Part 1 speakers, Director of Department of Policies on Migrant Workers at Serve the People Association, Taoyuan, Mr. Leonard Inda Wang, to come up stage. Welcome. And now I'd like to welcome Director of the ASUS, Ms. Aiza Ahero, Senior Labor Analyst of Human Resources Without Borders, Mr. Aziz Ahmont. And now I'd like to welcome, please welcome. Please come to the center of the stage. Thank you. And now the Part 2 speakers, General Manager of Schneider Electric Taiwan, Ms. Sylvia Kuo, Director of Polycor Optical Malaysia, Ms. Cynthia Shanmugam Davinder, and Managing Director of Human Resources Without Borders, Ms. Magabi Kopies. Welcome. Wonderful. So now we have quite a lot of people, so I'd like to invite everyone to please come closer. Welcome. We also have our speaker, Mr. Mongsong Yanel. Welcome. Please come closer to each other towards the center. Welcome. Okay, please look towards our camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and should we have another one with thumbs up? Thank you very much. Please once again look into our camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please give our VIPs a big round of applause and thank our speakers. I'd like to actually invite our Part 1 speakers to remain on the stage and take a seat. Thank you very much. So we have our Part 1 speakers, and if you need your translating devices, you might bring them up to the stage. Welcome. So ladies and gentlemen, let me once again introduce our Part 1 speakers. So we have Director of Department of Policies on Migrant Workers at Serve the People Association, Taoyuan SPA, Mr. Leonard Inda Wang, and Director of the ASUS Group Labor Union and ASPE Labor Union, Ms. Aiza Ahero, and Senior Labor Analyst of Human Resources Without Borders, Mr. Aziz Ahmont. But also we have one very, very important speaker who is online right now. Our first speech will delve into the due diligence laws. Why are these laws enacted and in what spirit? It is our honor to have the French parliamentarian, Mr. Dominique Potier, who is the rapporteur of the French due diligence law and evaluated the law 5 years after its passing. He also participates in the work of European due diligence law. So joining us online from Paris, please welcome Mr. Potier. Welcome. You may begin your speech, Mr. Potier.
Avec plaisir. Je voudrais tout d'abord saluer Monsieur le directeur général Saïd et puis Madame la directrice adjointe Le Carter, les remercier pour leur invitation et leur dire à quel point c'est un honneur pour moi que de participer à ce séminaire. Je le dis avec beaucoup d'émotion car je suis absolument convaincu que ce séminaire, que cet axe de travail participe par la justice à la paix du monde. Et il y a peu de régions du monde comme celle de Taïwan, nous savons à quel point ce monde est dangereux. Donc nous sommes aujourd'hui dans une démarche de prévention des risques pour la dignité de la personne humaine, mais également pour protéger notre maison commune. Je voudrais vous dire tout d'abord que la loi que j'ai eu l'honneur de porter au sein du Parlement français en 2017 est une loi qui a été pionnière, qui a été première et qui aurait pu rester isolée. Mais que cette loi, par la force de l'esprit qui l'animait, est devenue un enjeu européen et, nous pouvons le dire aujourd'hui à Taïwan, un enjeu mondial. Que dit cette loi? Cette loi lève le voile juridique qui sépare les donneurs d'ordre, ceux qui ont le pouvoir économique, les multinationales, les sociétés transnationales. Il lève ce voile juridique qui les sépare de leurs sous-traitants et de leurs filiales. Ce n'est pas une loi qui nie les frontières, mais c'est une loi qui rappelle les fondamentaux du droit international, tels que proclamés par l'organisation internationale, l'ONU, qui rappelle les principes édictés par l'OCDE et qui les traduit dans une loi nationale. Elle n'invente pas de nouveaux droits, elle participe simplement, en vérité, à leur mise en œuvre. Lever le voile juridique des multinationales pour les rendre responsables de leur chaîne de sous-traitance à l'échelle du monde est une idée qui est née dans des cercles intellectuels de la recherche universitaire, dans l'esprit d'organisations non gouvernementales et dans celle des syndicats à l'échelle française et à l'échelle européenne. C'est donc la société civile et le monde intellectuel qui sont à l'origine de ce concept de devoir de vigilance des multinationales. Nous avons été comme élus de la nation, comme politique, simplement des passeurs de cet esprit, de cette innovation portée par la société civile. L'adoption de cette loi en France a mobilisé beaucoup d'énergie. C'est 5 ans de persuasion, de combat, qui ont permis l'adoption in fine d'une loi en 2017. Cette loi est prudente. Elle s'adresse aux très grandes entreprises de plus de 5000 salariés, et elle les enjoint d'établir la cartographie des risques qui est la leur. En effet, la cartographie des risques n'est pas du tout la même dans le secteur du chocolat, de l'agroalimentaire, dans le textile ou dans les semi-conducteurs qui réunissent notamment, qui justifient notamment le séminaire d'aujourd'hui. Donc à chaque filière, à chaque entreprise de déterminer la cartographie des risques qui sont les siens. Porte-t-il sur l'origine des matériaux, sur les capacités ou non à polluer les réserves d'eau potable, l'air, à impacter l'environnement ou à générer implicitement ou directement du travail forcé, voire du travail des enfants. Chaque entreprise, chaque filière doit établir une cartographie des risques. Il appartient ensuite à l'entreprise de se donner des moyens effectifs de limiter ces risques et d'éviter les dommages tant sur les droits humains que sur la nature et l'écologie. Deuxième élément de cette loi, s'il y a une carence en matière de prévention par le plan de vigilance, ou s'il y a absence de plan de prévention, un juge peut être saisi par toute partie prenante intéressée. Dans le droit français, nous entendons comme partie prenante une communauté locale concernée par la sous-traitance de la filiale, un syndicat, une ONG, une communauté territoriale. Toutes ces parties prenantes peuvent saisir un juge qui met en demeure l'entreprise de produire la démonstration d'un véritable plan de vigilance assumé sur sa chaîne de production. En cas d'échec de cette médiation, la responsabilité civile peut être engagée avec une astreinte non limitée donnée à l'entreprise, donc une sanction financière. Un autre article de cette loi très brève nous dit qu'en cas de dommage, de catastrophe humanitaire ou de catastrophe écologique, l'absence d'un plan de vigilance et d'un plan de prévention effectif de fait est un facteur aggravant pour la réparation des dommages. Cette loi, encore une fois, aurait pu rester isolée. Elle a été conçue en 2017, conçue dès 2012. Elle a été votée en 2017 et son application dans la réalité a commencé en 2019. Donc c'est une loi qui a simplement quelques années, à peine 4 années. C'est une loi qui est très jeune. Elle aurait pu rester isolée. Elle a au contraire fait école, suscité un intérêt intellectuel, universitaire dans le monde entier. J'ai eu l'occasion à plusieurs reprises de voyager en Europe et outre-Atlantique pour exposer les motivations et la philosophie de cette loi. Cette loi a également fait école dans l'Union européenne et l'Allemagne a été le second pays à adopter 2 ans après une loi équivalente à la loi française. Plus important, l'Union européenne s'est saisie de ce projet et a esquissé une démarche en ce sens dès l'année 2021. Ce processus, aujourd'hui, en Europe, a pris la forme de délibération législative dans les 3 parties qui concernent le droit européen. La première est celle d'une délibération de la Commission. Un projet de directive a été adopté en février 2022, puis le Conseil des États, la même année, en décembre, a établi un autre projet de directive, et enfin le Parlement, le 1er juin de cette année, en 2023, a lui-même réalisé un projet de directive. Ces 3 parties de la démocratie de l'Union européenne sont actuellement en dialogue lorsqu'il est convenu d'appeler le trilogue, c'est-à-dire le dialogue des 3 parties, le Conseil des États, le Parlement, et d'autre part la Commission qui est quelque part le gouvernement de l'Union européenne. Ces 3 parties visent un accord qui pourrait être établi sous la présidence espagnole à la fin de cette année, c'est-à-dire dans les semaines, dans les mois, dans les semaines à venir. Il y a une autre hypothèse, c'est que le texte n'étant pas encore tout à fait stabilisé, l'accord conclu, il y ait une dernière chance qui soit donnée avant le renouvellement démocratique du Parlement, et ça pourrait être sous la présidence belge au 1er trimestre 2024 que cet accord soit conclu. En tout état de cause, il y aura une directive européenne en 2024 qui se mettra en œuvre dans les États membres dans les 2 ans qui suivent. Nous pourrons donc dire que entre l'adoption de la loi française en mars 2027 et le dernier État membre qui mettra en œuvre au sein de l'Union européenne cette directive, il se sera écoulé moins de 10 années. À l'aube de la révolution que représente la loi de l'ordre de vigilance, nous pouvons dire que c'est un combat politique exemplaire, en cela qu'il est parti de la société civile, qu'il a été relayé par le monde politique et qu'il s'est étendu à l'échelle européenne et qu'il a dès lors un impact sur la mondialisation dans son ensemble. Le plan de vigilance propre à la loi sur le devoir de vigilance des sociétés transnationales est un devoir de vigilance à 360 degrés. Il couvre en effet l'ensemble des droits humains tels que définis dans les principes de RII, mais également les droits de l'environnement qui sont, dans la conception moderne du droit, une sorte d'extension des droits de l'homme. Cette loi n'est pas d'abord une loi de sanction, telle que nous l'avons conçue. Elle est d'abord une loi de prévention. Elle fait le pari de l'intelligence collective, de l'ensemble des parties prenantes, pour trouver des solutions qui évitent les drames. L'objectif n'est pas d'abord de sanctionner, il est de prévenir. Dernier point qui caractérise ce plan de vigilance, il fait comprendre à l'entreprise, à son habileté, à son agilité, cette loi profondément régulatrice mise sur l'intelligence et la force de l'entreprise pour inventer elle-même des systèmes de prévention qui évitent les catastrophes humanitaires et écologiques. Le débat européen n'est pas terminé. Il porte sur des questions très importantes. Quel est le seuil des entreprises concernées? Dans l'acception française, il s'agissait de très grandes entreprises. C'était un compromis politique il y a maintenant quelques années. Désormais, le législateur européen hésite entre un seuil de 250 ou 500 salariés. 10 fois moins que dans la loi française, c'est un progrès énorme. Par contre, il reste des secteurs d'autres domaines de la loi, entre la loi française et la directive, qui ne sont pas arbitrés, qui pourraient pencher, à mon sens, de façon négative. Le législateur européen hésite en effet encore aujourd'hui sur le niveau de responsabilité civile des sociétés transnationales. Il y a une école de la sanction administrative et il y a une autre école qui est celle de la sanction par un tribunal au nom de la responsabilité civile. Il y a également une hésitation et un débat autour de la profondeur de la chaîne de sous-traitance. Dans la loi française, un sous-traitant est concerné par la loi dès lors qu'il a une relation commerciale établie dans la durée et de façon significative avec son donneur d'emploi. Il y a une hésitation à limiter le niveau de chaîne de sous-traitance dans le débat européen. Enfin, un sujet extrêmement sensible est celui du secteur bancaire. Jusqu'à quel point nos banques doivent-elles embarquer dans cette révolution du droit en termes de responsabilité? Lorsque je finance une chaîne de sous-traitance, une multinationale, est-ce que je peux être impliqué dans les pratiques et responsable des pratiques qui sont les siennes en matière de droits humains et de l'environnement? En tout état de cause, et quel que soit le niveau de l'ambition de la directive européenne, elle constituera une révolution. Et l'Europe, comme espace de consommation, mais aussi comme espace de production, va impacter durablement et de façon inévitable l'ensemble de l'économie du monde. Elle le fera en y ajoutant d'autres directives qui concourent à ce que nous appelons le Green Deal, cette révolution autour de l'écologie et des droits humains que l'Europe entend défendre avec une éthique de la mondialisation. Ces autres lois sont celles du reporting extra-financier qui va permettre d'établir une taxonomie des bonnes pratiques en matière de responsabilité sociale et environnementale des entreprises. Elles seront notées sur un ensemble de critères qui seront communs à l'Union européenne. Il y a par ailleurs d'autres directives plus dures en cours de discussion. La présidente de la Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, a évoqué une directive sur le travail des enfants avec la reprise des principes adoptés aux États-Unis, c'est-à-dire l'interdiction d'importation de produits issus du travail forcé et du travail des enfants. Nous avons donc en Europe un ensemble de législations qui entourent et qui viennent compléter le système de prévention établi par le devoir de vigilance des multinationales. Au-delà d'une sanction par le juge ou d'une sanction juridique, je voudrais attirer votre attention sur le fait que ce faisceau de loi, ce printemps de la législation qui s'établit en Europe autour de ces questions, n'aura pas que des conséquences juridiques. Il y aura également des sanctions sur le marché et sur la capacité à recruter des collaborateurs. Nous observons en effet que les marchés financiers, demain, l'attitude des consommateurs, le choix des consommateurs et le choix de la nouvelle génération à travailler ou non pour telle ou telle entreprise sera conditionné par son respect de lois comme la loi sur le devoir de vigilance, mais également sur son scoring en matière de responsabilité sociale et environnementale. Je suis donc absolument convaincu que si cette loi est une révolution pour tous les pays du monde, elle est en fait non pas une loi contre la mondialisation, ni même contre le libéralisme, elle est une loi de régulation qui permet de faire naître une nouvelle économie. Une économie fondée sur les droits humains, fondée sur le commerce équitable, fondée sur la transparence et le respect de ce qu'il y a plus de précieux au monde, la vie de chaque personne et la vie sur notre terre. Je vous remercie.
So we still have about 5 minutes for a Q&A session. Yep, so if we have any questions from the floor, please raise your hand and our staff will hand the microphone to you. Or if you have questions on the stage, you're also welcome to ask them. Okay, we have one question.
Should I speak in English or Mandarin? 好，我想要请教的是议员，就是从2017年法国尽职调查法通过到现在，我们知道民间团体尝试了多次的诉讼，但是就我们现在所知，诉讼是没有任何一个成功的案例的，无论是因为程序原因被驳回，还是因为就是停滞在法庭中。所以想请教，从议员的立场，他看到法国过去这6、7年来是如何从这个法，应该说这个法通过到现在，虽然没有成功的案例，但是是如何去预防我们刚刚提到的这些环境跟人权侵害，是不是已经看到成果了？然后那个成果是用你有什么样的方式可以去证明，去跟其他在提倡尽职调查法的人，像是我们说明说，对这个法是有用的，你应该往这个方向走。谢谢。
Je réponds immédiatement. Oui. Je réponds maintenant, oui.
Yes, yes, please.
Oh, ok, merci. Oui, il y a en tout une dizaine d'actions législatives qui ont été engagées, notamment des mises en demeure, et qui n'ont pas tous été traduites par l'engagement d'un processus dans le tribunal compétent. Il y a pour ça plusieurs raisons. La première est la jeunesse de la loi. C'est une loi qui commence à être effective il y a à peine 3 ans. Donc c'est une loi qui est très jeune. D'autre part, il y avait une ambiguïté quant à la juridiction compétente. Est-ce que cette loi relevait, et là je ne peux pas rentrer dans le détail du droit français, mais il y a chez nous un tribunal professionnel qui est le tribunal de commerce et les tribunaux civils qui relèvent de l'autorité des juges au sens du droit commun. Nous avons déjà été pendant 2 ans avec ce doute sur la juridiction compétente. C'est désormais clarifié, ce sont les tribunaux civils qui seront en charge de ce qui relève de la loi de devoir de vigilance. Le deuxième élément était la juridiction compétente sur le plan géographique. Une loi récente a permis de clarifier que c'était bien le tribunal de Paris qui était compétent en matière de concurrence internationale et de conflits entre entreprises transnationales qui serait chargé exclusivement des questions relatives au devoir de vigilance. Donc la loi est récente. Elle a été précisée il y a peu de temps quant aux juridictions compétentes géographiquement et en termes de chaîne de droit. Donc c'est une première explication. La deuxième est que nous sommes sur une matière juridique qui est naissante. Et chacun, dans les parties prenantes qui ont été en justice, je pense aux ONG, comme pour les juges, comme pour les multinationales, il y a une part d'hésitation et un savoir qui est en train de se constituer. Je pense qu'il faudra du temps pour qu'une sorte de jurisprudence s'établisse. Et puis il y a la perspective d'une directive européenne qui va harmoniser les législations nationales et qui permettra de clarifier et d'harmoniser celle de la France. Donc pour toutes ces raisons, on peut expliquer qu'à court terme, les juridictions n'aient pu aboutir, même si, et sans citer aucune marque, aucune entreprise, il y a des perspectives à court terme de 3 dossiers au moins qui pourraient être traduits devant la justice. Et peut-être que l'essentiel n'est pas là. Peut-être que l'essentiel n'est pas là. Parce que c'est aujourd'hui l'ensemble des entreprises qui ont engagé à des niveaux divers des processus de prévention. Certaines sont dans une logique minimaliste. Elles interprètent la loi comme une obligation de se protéger juridiquement. Elles oublient que cette loi a été d'abord faite pour protéger les victimes d'une mondialisation sauvage au bout du monde. Celles-là se trompent. Elles seront rattrapées par la justice. Une autre type d'entreprise a engagé un travail de fond pour revoir ces chaînes de production, pour les contrôler, pour changer le partage de la valeur et pour faire respecter les droits de l'écologie et des droits humains. Et celles-là vont gagner demain, non seulement parce qu'elles seront protégées vis-à-vis du juge, mais parce que j'en suis convaincu, elles seront au rendez-vous des marchés du futur.
Distinguished guests, so my name is Lennon from Serve the People Association. So I will talk about, Monsieur Potier mentioned risks mapping. So what I will talk about is about this part. SPA is a labor organization in Taiwan. We have shelters for migrant workers since 9 years ago. So, but I personally, I've been in touch with migrant workers for more than 20 years since I was in the, graduate school. So anyway, we do the settlements for workers in our office, but for the shelters, now we have 3, for the Vietnamese, Indonesian, and Filipino workers. And in the past 9 years, we already sheltered for more than 1,600 migrant workers from the 3 nationalities. And I was from an anthropology background, and for the last 20 years, I've been working 4 years in a national center called Chinese Federation of Labor, and then 7 years in a bank union as the general secretary, and then came back to our SPA organization for already 9 years. So firstly, some statistics. Okay, I'll make it very fast. Our time is very limited. So this is the general number of the migrant workers in Taiwan until the end of May. All the statistics are from the Ministry of Labor. So we have more than 700,000 migrant workers in Taiwan from the 4 nationalities. There's a news that there might be migrants from India in the future, but there's none yet. And you can see the proportion of the gender is very different. Okay, that reflects on their work in Taiwan. And these are some numbers from different sectors. And anyway, so in general, more than half of the migrant workers are in the manufacturing sector. More than 440,000 of them are in the factory, either factory or construction in other relevant works. And the risk, okay, so what are the risks about them? The first one, the placement fee. Okay, this is one of our top issue today. Most of the migrants, before they come, they have to pay a big amount of placement fees. And most of them, they don't have the cash, so they will be referred to a lending company to borrow a big amount of money to pay them. So after they come to Taiwan, they have to pay monthly. And they will be required to write another promissory note. So if they cannot pay on time, the lending company will sue them in a court. So they will be warned by the court and be demanded to deduct their salary monthly. Okay, that's the first one. So they are always chasing by the bills. They have to pay the loans. According to the, Anyway, according to the indicators from the ILO, the debt bondage is very clearly a kind of forced labor. So we can say that most of the migrant workers in Taiwan, they are facing the risks of forced labor, not to mention the other indicators. Actually, all of the 11 indicators are so common in Taiwan for the migrant workers. And then the fees to transfer already higher and other things. So anyway, in Taiwan, not in general, most of the migrant workers, if they need to transfer to another company, they need to pay the broker again. If they will be rehired by the same company, they need to pay again. Okay, so everything they need to pay. These fees are not legal, yet very few companies have been penalized by the government. And okay, I don't want to blame all brokers, but that's the reports from many migrant workers. Many of them, they complained, the brokers, even they charge from them monthly, but they don't really help them so much. That's because of the power relation. The brokers need to safeguard their business with the company, with the employers. So they have to, frankly, please the employers instead of do the services to the migrant workers. So, okay. And in the companies, actually, most of the companies, they don't even pay any single dollar to the brokers for recruiting the workers. It's the migrant workers who pay the monthly fee. Okay. This is a very common bill from the migrant workers. You can see the logos of the convenience stores and our post office. So it's very easy for them to pay the fees monthly. So every month they have to pay They use this kind of bills to pay in the shops. So usually it's 12 months. They need to pay 12 months. And there's another one. And usually there's a big, all of the companies are loan sharks. So there will be a very big interest. So for the Filipino workers, it's like, the equivalence is like, if you borrow 60,000 pesos, in the end, you have to pay back 60,000 NT dollars. That's about more than 40,000 plus of it. So the interest is terrible. Okay, this is another fake lending contract from the fisherman. Okay, it says I have to come to Taiwan to work, but I don't have money, so I borrow money from my employer. Then I have to pay monthly. And it even says, if I am not fit to the work, I have to do a few months for free works, so I can pay my ticket back home. And there is an authentication from a Philippine lawyer. There is no such a law. Totally, it's a fake document. And many of them, there are personal IDs like passport, and even the alien residence certificate, or ARC, that's an ID for the foreigners in Taiwan. Many of them, they don't have these IDs at hand, and including their documents like the employment contracts, okay, and illegal works. Many migrant workers are required to do some extra works out of their contract. For the domestic workers, for the factory workers, fishermen, actually many of them is rampant. So the lady on the right side, she's not working in the restaurant, she's a caretaker, but she was asked to work in the restaurant owned by her employer. The man on the left side, he's not a construction worker, he's a factory worker, but he was asked to do the construction works. And no freedom to transfer. Even our government and sometimes the business complained that it's already very easy for the migrants to transfer. But no, according to the law, except for some exceptions, the migrant workers cannot transfer freely. They cannot just say, I want to resign and find another job. If their employer don't agree, they cannot do that. And they can complain to the labor office for violations, but they need to have very concrete evidence. Many of them lost because they don't have the evidence that accepted by the labor office. So there's no freedom to transfer at all. And in the contracts, many managing agencies will replace the articles which is favorable to the workers by some others. The most common articles like this. This is part of the Philippine official contract. It says clearly that the employer should pay for the free board and lodging, including, and also the 3 meals, including the day holidays, to the Filipino factory workers. And also the round-trip ticket should be paid by the employer. But these two will always be replaced. This is the addendum. I erased the names of all the companies. It's from a very major electronics company in Taiwan. They signed this with the workers, which says these 3 articles will be replaced by the 3 new articles. So in brief, you have to pay your own ticket and you have to pay your board and lodging. The board and lodging expenses is always a very big controversy for the Filipino factory workers in Taiwan. We complained for them for so many cases, but we lost in all the cases in the court. Because for the court, for the judges, they recognize all agreements signed by 2 parties. So there's another agreement like this one, and also there is another document called salary affidavit, which mentioned the possible deduction for the board and lodging from the salary. Okay. So even the 2 are contradicted, and even there was a statement from the Ministry of Labor which says if the 2 documents are different, Taiwan government should use the one in favor of the worker. But actually, MOL doesn't follow that themselves. And the court, they always said, that's okay. And the pregnancy. There's a very huge, very terrible discrimination on the maternity rights. Almost all the women migrant workers, if they are pregnant, they will be either persuaded to go home or just dismissed to go home. For some extreme cases, some companies, they even ask the workers to sign another side agreement which says it's forbidden to be pregnant. And they cannot raise their own kids if they have a child here. And some of the working and living condition is extremely poor. And there's no shift justice. I mean, for the electronics company, for example, they have to run the machines for 24 hours. So they change the shifts. If it's Taiwanese to do the night shift works, they will have at least 7,000 plus for night shift differentials, night shift bonus. But for the migrants, most of them, they have lower than 3,000 NT, or sometimes nothing at all. And the COVID-19 made everything worse. I will just skip this part. That's the rules. It's very common rules for the migrant workers. It's some of the, not the worst, but some of the worst, I think. And some workers from a company, the worker, when they got the virus and they went home, went back to the dorm, they found all of their belongings were thrown out like this. And they were moved to another dorm, it's like this. It's not really prepared yet. And why it's so bad? Because actually, usually in Taiwan, it's the brokers, it's the agency to pay everything. The company, the employers, they don't pay anything. So of course, the brokers, they will try to squeeze everything and try to save everything. And this is a very famous incident during the pandemic. Our Miaoli mayor, he announced a county-wide restriction of movement. He banned all the migrant workers in Miaoli County from going out of their workplace. If they are found roaming out outside, the employer will be penalized. This policy stayed there for more than 3 weeks. And a big company fired 2 of their workers because of this. They were forced to, okay, they can only move from dorm to the company and they cannot go outside for too long. So 2 of them, they made a funny video and uploaded to TikTok, which used some funny words like, do you know how to go out? Just wear the badge. And then they were fired. Okay, I will skip this part, I will go to the last one. There's some blind spots. The government doesn't see the situation of migrant workers as forced labor at all. Okay, that's very common. They don't have enough education. And the laws, actually many of the laws and regulations themselves are discriminatory. Okay, and the grievance mechanism is very problematic. Some of the officers are not really, they are biased. And the permit to stay is tied up for the employment. So whenever they're dismissed, they almost need to go home. And the legal protection, okay, many of them, they don't have legal protection, like distant water fishermen and domestic workers, they don't have the labor laws. The private audits, okay, I don't want to name them, but we all know there are many private auditing systems running in Taiwan. There are a lot of obstacles and problems. To take one, everyone knows who are interviewed. So how can the workers tell the truth if they don't want to be blacklisted? And they don't contact the unions and the labor organizations. So that's a problem. What we should do, okay, enforce the fair recruitment principles, which is one of our priority here, and more labor inspections should be done, and the bad actors should be punished, okay, and we should have a new model for public auditing, which involves all the stakeholders, including the unions and the labor organizations, so the workers can really tell the truth. So the auditors can really know the truth. And we should know that elimination of the forced labor is a task for everyone. It's not only the work of us, the NGOs, labor organizations, or human rights organizations. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wong. Please take your seat. And next, please welcome Director of the AXIS Group Labor Union and ASCII Labor Union, Ms. Aiza Ajero, for the perspectives of workers. Welcome.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Ako po si Aiza Ajero, factory worker and kasalukuyan pong director ng labor union dito sa Taiwan.
大家好, good afternoon to all. I'm Aiza. I'm presently a factory worker here in Taiwan, and I'm the director of 2 labor unions here.
Nandito po ako para mag-share po ng experience ko sa forced labor na na-experience ko po through papunta po dito sa Taiwan at habang nandito po nagtatrabaho sa Taiwan.
Okay, so I would like to share my experience of forced labor in the process of coming here to Taiwan and presently working in Taiwan.
Noong year 2013 po, ako po, bago po makarating po dito, noong year 2013, ako po ay nag-apply sa agency sa Pilipinas para makarating po dito. At bago po makarating dito, kailangan po namin kumuha ng iba't ibang klaseng ID, passport, at mga medical po. 2 medical na kailangan namin pagdaanan at iba't ibang mga IDs, interviews bago makarating po dito. Kailangan magpabalik-balik bago makarating po dito at lahat po yun ay sagot po namin lahat.
So in year 2013, when I applied for work here in Taiwan, I had to process my own ID documents, my passport. I had to go through 2 medical examinations and go through several interviews. So I had to go back several times to the agency, and all of this were at my own expenses.
At bago po makarating dito, bago po bigyan ng job order or ng trabaho ng agency, kailangan po namin magbayad ng napakalaking halaga para mabigyan po kami ng trabaho dito sa Taiwan sa nagkakahalagang 120,000 pesos na kailangan namin utangin para po kami makarating dito kasi po hindi naman po lahat ng mga pumupunta po dito ay may sari-sariling pera. So kailangan po namin umutang sa lending company na babayarin din po namin dito sa Taiwan ng, for example po, 120,000 sa peso at babayaran namin sa 120,000 sa NT.
So before we got the job order here in Taiwan, we were supposed to pay a very huge placement fee to the manpower agency in the Philippines, And then we were required to pay a placement fee of, let's say, about 120,000 pesos. That would be about $2,000 US. And because not all workers can afford this amount, we were forced to borrow from the lending company. And we had to repay the money back here in Taiwan at the same amount of 120,000 in NT dollars. So that would be about $4,000 US.
At pag nakarating po kayo dito sa Taiwan, kailangan po namin na mahigpit na sundin yung deadline ngayon. Kung hindi po masunod yun, ay magkakaroon po kami ng penalties at panibago na naman po additional na bayad yon sa aming lending company. So in repaying this debt, we had to comply with their schedule. Now, if we were not able to pay on time, we would be charged another interest. So that would add up to another amount. So hindi po lahat ng company dito sa Taiwan na mapupuntahan po namin ay mapipili po namin. Almost po kasi dito ay wala pong overtime. So pag pumunta po dito na wala pong overtime, ang minimum pong sahod is nasa 21 to 23,000. And then kakaltasan pa po nila yon ng board and lodging, broker's fee, kuryente at tubig.
So in coming to Taiwan, we can choose the company we were going to work with. So basically, the company we would work with would have a basic wage of around 21,000 to 23,000. So without any overtime pay. Now from this, we still had to pay our broker's fee, our board and lodging, and our electricity and water bills.
Kaya po, almost po sa pumupunta dito sa Taiwan, kung wala pong overtime, napipilitan po silang maghanap ng side job para lang po makasurvive. Kasi almost po nang binabayaran namin sa lending company, kalahati na po ng sahod namin. So kung hindi po kami magsa-side job, almost po ng mga hindi nagsa-side job, wala rin po kami may papadala sa pamilya namin sa Pilipinas.
So for us workers who come to Taiwan with this basic wage, we don't have any overtime. We sometimes are forced to work to find side jobs. So that means to work part-time in other places. Because the money we pay for our, the money we borrowed would be almost half of our salary. So that is, we have very little left to send back to our old families.
Kaya po, malaking bagay po na may overtime po kami. Pero bukod po dun sa halos 1 year and a half po magbabayad ng lending company, pagdating po dito sa Taiwan, magbabayad po ng broker's fee at napakataas pong kuryente at tubig. Kaya po, nagsulong po kami na dahil po sa sobrang laking babayaran ng tubig at kuryente, naghanap po kami ng taong tutulong sa amin para may paglaban namin yung karapatan namin.
So, as overtime would be very important to us, and then paying back the money we borrowed would take about 1.5 years, and then in coming here into Taiwan, we also had to pay our broker's fee here in Taiwan. Now, also the water and the electric bill charged to us is very high, so we had to find someone to help us make the complaint about this.
About po dito sa issue na nagtayo po kami ng labor union sa ngayon kasi po sobra-sobra na po yung ginagawa nila na ang taas po ng binabayaran namin. Sa loob po ng 4 months na hindi po sila nagkakaltas ng broker's fee and then po sa kuryente tubig, nag-announce po yung company namin na magbabawas daw po sila ng tao, wala pong mabibigay na overtime, so magbabawas po sila ng tao. At bago po umalis, ay kailangan namin magbayad ng ibibigay nilang total ng bill.
So we came up with we decided to organize the union is because, so the company didn't collect the broker's fee, the water bill, and the electricity bill for 4 months. But after this, the company announced that because of low production, they had no overtime. So it was really, they were cutting out the number of employees. Now, before we were asked to leave, they asked us to pay for this 4 months broker's fee, water, electricity bill.
Sa nagkakahalaga po, iba-iba po yung binibigay na bill. Yung iba po, bago umalis po, kailangan magbayad minsan po 21,000. NT po yun.
So this bill would differ according to different persons, but it was an average of 21,000 per person.
Kaya po namulat po kami at doon po kami nagtulong-tulong at bumuo po ng union group para po sa tulong po ni Sir Lennon. Kaya po namulat po kami sa iba't ibang karapatan namin bilang manggagawa. At nalaman po namin na kabilang po pala kami at under po kami ng private auditor dito sa Taiwan.
So we were shocked with the bill and we asked help from Sir Lennon Wang, and we decided to organize the union. And also one more thing is because of the private auditing.
Kaya po, nitong nalaman po namin lahat ng karapatan namin na hindi na po pala namin kailangang magbayad ng broker's fee at ng iba't ibang klaseng IDs, ARC, medical expenses, at placement fee na kailangan po ay binalik pala sa amin ng company pero hindi po nila binalik. Kaya po, yun po yung sinusulong ng labor union sa kasalukuyan ngayon upang makuha po namin yung karapatan namin. Kasi po, sa nangyayari po dito sa Taiwan, lahat po ng manggagawa dito ay pikit matang nagbabayad ng napakalaking halaga ng utang.
So we just learned of the rights of workers, and we found out that we were not supposed to pay for our own IDs, ARCs, medical, broker's fee, and that our placement fee was supposed to be refunded to us, which the company didn't do. Right now, the labor union is working for this, trying to fight for the labor rights of workers.
Sa ngayon po ay nagkaroon na po siya ng improvement na okay na po yung sa kuryente namin na naging maayos na po, nagkasundo na po na naging mababa na po siya kumpara sa dati pong sinisingil nila sa amin.
So about the issue on the electricity bill, so it has been resolved and it has been, we were paying the usual amount we used to pay before.
Yun lang po, salamat.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir. Next, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Labor Analyst of Human Resources Without Borders, RHSF, Mr. Aziz Amon, to talk about forced labor systemic and share with us the realities of recruitment and migration. Please.
Okay, thank you for having us here. Thank you for Mr. Lennon and Mrs. Aiza by sharing your experiences. So my name is Aziz, I'm from France. I'm working for the French organization Human Resources Without Borders, and we are really pleased to be here and organizing this event. So I want to go a bit deeper on what is exactly forced labor, what is this concept of forced labor, what is this we are talking about today. ILO, International Labour Organization, come up with a definition. The forced labor is all work or service which is exacted from any person under the menace of any penalty and for which the same person has not offered itself voluntarily. So this is the official definition from ILO. And ILO come up with 11 indicators to determine, to say what is forced labor. So there is 11 indicators, and based on our experience, we group these 11 indicators into 4 big families of indicators to make it more operational in the field. I will explain them. So there is 4 indicators. The first one is consent, the second one is constraint, the third one is isolation, and the last one is freedom of movement. I will explain all of them, and I will focus on two, constraint and consent. I'll focus on these two because these two happen before the workers even set foot in the destination country. It happened in the origin country, and I will explain this by illustrate with one of the examples, which is the country of Indonesia. So let's start with let's start with the 4 indicators. What is exactly forced labor? How we define it? First one is consent. So I think Lena and I share a lot of it just before me about consent is the workers. Does the workers give agree to work freely? Does he have all the information about working condition, recruitment condition, and also living condition? And does the condition that he agreed at the very first stage of the recruitment process, that's what we will discover and experience once he arrives in the destination country. So I think Elena and I share a lot of it when we see like the contract substitution where we promise something else and then there is a new thing to pay and add on with a new contract. So consent, it means like the worker should freely choose the work and with full information and comprehensive information in a way they understand everything. The second is the constraint. Constraint is the act of forcing someone to do something against their will. And in the context of working, is like we're looking at things that force, pressure that force the workers to do something that he doesn't want to do. The pressure can be debt bondage, but it can also be other form of pressure that will force the workers to do some like illegal work overtime, and maybe work in dangerous position. The third one is isolation. Isolation means that a worker is cut off from any person or any group that will help him in case of need. So he has no assistance, he has no help. It can be usually the result of a deliberate policy on the part of the employer. So the employer is like cutting the workers off any community. There is no labor union, there is no other group, and workers cannot speak because they don't know the language. So they must be able to use any kind of language and have access to any assistance or justice. The last one is the freedom of movement, and we've seen it with the example of Lenon where we get. It's like the workers should be able to move freely outside their working hours and also to leave their job if they want to, and to just resign or go to another job. So some companies, they have a policy and also the government policy in the workers' freedom. And then we all know that withholding passport is one way. This is what's been common in some practices, but there is also a lot of other practices that the company are using to restrict the freedom of movement. The curfew is one of them, and also a forced savings of the workers' wages. Okay. So as I said before, two of them appears at the really first stage of the recruitment process, and this is the consent and the constraint. And I will dig into this two a bit later. And I will take the example of Indonesia. So Indonesia is one of the main origin country for migrant workers. For many years, around 200,000, maybe more, workers leave Indonesia every year to go abroad. Taiwan is one of the main destination countries, but there is also Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and even in Europe, in Poland, in Italy, and of course Japan and Korea. And the last few years, I've been able to travel to this origin country like Indonesia, but also Philippines, Vietnam, and recently to Nepal. So I just want to share with you a little bit of my study in Indonesia and what I discovered over there. Like I said, it's a major country, and I just want you to understand that by comparing the minimum wage, you can understand why the workers want to leave Indonesia and to go abroad. Minimum wage in Indonesia is set by region, so it's very different from one place to another. But in the region where the workers come from, mainly Central Java and this part, the minimum wage is $130 per month. When in Malaysia is almost the double, more than the double, $314 per month, and in Taiwan is more than $800 per month. So, of course, there is a lot of factors that will drive the migration, but the economic part is very important. And when we see the minimum wage and access to decent opportunity of job, we can see like why Indonesia is one of the main country of origin. And the remittance is very, very important. The money sent to Indonesia was about 10 million euros in 2020. It makes a lot of it's a lot of money to help to reduce poverty in Indonesia. So it's very important for people to go abroad and help their family. So I say two parts: consent and constraint. So consent is very important. The information is the key in the recruitment process. Sharing the true information to the workers is very important. But so when we talk about information, we're talking about working condition, living condition, recruitment condition, and then all the workers should make their choice based on true information they receive. But in Indonesia, same as other countries, I would say, in Indonesia, the information is the key. And the first piece of the information, which is the key, is how to find a job. So people from migrant workers usually they come from rural area, very remote place with a lack of access to labor agency, replacement agency in the big city, and access to information. Even though it's improving, the communication, internet is improving everywhere, but still they lack of it. So they rely on local brokers. They rely on people on the ground who has access to this kind of information. And this kind of information is very important. And then this local broker, we know that they are sometimes cheating, sometimes lying about the kind of work the workers will do abroad. To avoid this situation, in 2017, the Indonesia passed a new law to give more responsibility to the local authority. And just recently, it was announced that the government will draft a new regulation to improve the information sharing at the provincial and district level. But the law has been passed 6 years, and still, according to the stakeholders, different stakeholders from the government, also from civil society and other actors on the ground in Indonesia, still is not fully implemented, mainly due to lack of resources in Indonesia. Also, the information is, like I said, I will emphasize on it. It's very, very important to share good and true information. So to obtain this kind of information, the PP2MI, which is the government agency who is conducting all the recruitment process and in Indonesia, they do a one-day training. This one-day training is usually done at the end of the process, after the visa is done, just before they leave. So usually they have like 1 day so to learn about the destination country, to learn about the rights, the regulation, also the culture of the destination country and other aspects of the living condition there. But my question is like, is it very late, and is it enough and efficient to make the workers less susceptible to deceptive practices? So it's like a question that I have since I discovered this. Also, the contract is signed just at the end, so the official contract is signed at the end. And as it was shown by Lenon for Filipinos, contract can be changed at the ready hand before they leave or when they arrive. So contract substitution is one thing. So they agree at the first days, they agree to have this salary, work in this company, but when they actually have to leave, the conditions are very different. And then it's very late because they will have the flight in a couple of days maybe, so they have no choice to negotiate, they have no choice to bargain on every aspect of the contract. So it's like Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing that I want to share about consent, is that by lacking the knowledge and access to source of information, workers arrive here in the context of deceptive practices. They have not given their free and informed consent, which is a fundamental right, and then we need to improve this recruitment process that the workers accept fully what they are going into. So the second is the constraints. So constraints, mainly in terms of migration, comes with the debt bondage. In Indonesia, the new law of 2017 I mentioned stipulate that migrant workers should not pay any fee. This is the state, but still, migrant workers are still paying a lot of money to go abroad, not only to Taiwan but to other destination countries. Before the law, it was legal to charge workers. So it was legal to charge workers a certain amount, but a lot of the agencies were overcharging them. The issue of this was really widespread around Indonesia. So to think about what they pay, we need to actually identify all the costs, all the fees that the workers are facing before they even set foot in the destination country. The first fee is the placement fee, to pay for the agency, to pay for the service of the placement, for the recruitment. So this is one. Their role of the agency is to find candidates and to process all the administrative tasks. And so that's the first one. The second one is the official, what I call the official fee. Official fee is like the visa, the passport, medical, training, insurance. And then there is the informal fee, their transportation. She just shared before that she has to travel a lot of time for the agency. So all these informal, unofficial fees, lodging, food, flight, it will add up to the bill at the end. So as I mentioned a little before, the local broker in the village are the first point of contact of the migrant workers. And of course, they don't do it for free. They will ask money to the candidate. And not only they will ask money to the candidate, but in Indonesia, there is a practice that it's called pocket money, uang saku in Indonesia. So what happened is that actually the local broker lends some money to the family to have the consent. So they will give some money to the family so the family can pay for their daily lives or maybe some medical expenses and so on. But this is not a free money. This is a loan that we tie the workers, the candidate, at a really, really early stage of the recruitment process. We tie the workers to the agent, so he has no choice than to go abroad, whatever the condition, whatever the living condition. So it will also add up to the placement and the recruitment fee they have to pay. So, like I said, the agent is taking money. A lot of people are involved in this process, and they may take money. Another way of finding a job is actually more and more prevalent in Indonesia. You have the vocational school. Vocational school nowadays, they are promoting opportunity to go abroad. It is one way for them, for the schools to send the young kids, like 18, 20 years old abroad, to so they don't face unemployment in Indonesia. So more and more placement agency and vocational school are actually collaborating together to offer these job opportunities. But the teacher, like I say, they have the information, they have the knowledge, they have the connection. So they may become broker. They may ask money to the workers to connect them with any agent. And then I wanted just to go a bit deeper on this vocational school. It's very important because more and more we see young workers, young Indonesians going abroad. One believes that the young workers are more flexible, more willing to accept lower salary. So the agency are looking for these kind of things, for these kind of people, sorry. So workers, how they pay for this. So usually they pay a lot, the same as the Philippine industry share, a lot which is really, really expensive, and it will take months and months to get back the money. So I don't want to share with you the amount because it will depend on destination country, it will depend on the actor involved. But one thing for sure is it will take months and months for the workers to repay the recruitment fees. So there will be times, so there will be pressure by the company, they will be accepting any kind of job, and they will be willing to do a lot of overtime, even over the limits of the legislation, just to get a lot of money to first pay back the debt that occurred because they were looking for a job, because they were looking for, just to get a salary. Yeah, that's what I want to say. I just want to conclude by saying that all of these that I mentioned, all of this, like the consent and the constraint, it's happening before the workers arrive in the destination country. So it's happening before. So we have to look when you're a company or when you're agency or government. We have to look at what happened in those countries. We have to understand them. We have to understand the economic aspect and the sociology aspect of the country of origin. Because one word that struck my mind every time I talk to migrant workers, and every time I talk to workers in origin countries, the word desperate. They are looking for a job and they will sometimes be accepting any kind of condition for this. I gave one example, which is Indonesia, and but it's the same as was shared before, Philippines, but in Vietnam, Thailand, and also Nepal and India, other countries. It's something that's whispered in all of the countries. So thank you for it, and please, Cheryl, if you have any question or any comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed, for the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a 10-minute Q&A session, so please raise your hand if you have any questions to our speakers on the stage, or actually Mr. Potier is also with us online, so if you have any questions at all, please raise your hand, and our staff will hand you a microphone. Actually, we have one question for Isa. The question is, what is the first advice you would give to someone who wants to work abroad as you did? Thank you.
For me po, sa mga gusto po magtrabaho dito, sikapin na lang po siguro nila na maghanap sila ng company na wala pong placement fee. Kasi po, pag may placement fee po pumunta dito, sobrang hirap magbayad ng placement fee, and then uutangin din po siya sa lending company. Yun din po yung nagkukos bakit po nakakagawa ng mga illegal job yung mga Pilipino dito sa Taiwan. Dahil po sa sobrang laking utang dito. So, kung pupunta po dito, make sure po nila na yung pupuntahan po nila wala pong placement fee. Yun lang po.
So I would advise workers who want to come here to Taiwan, try to find a company without any placement fee. Because the placement fee is an extra burden, you would have to pay for that. So that may be a reason why some workers would resort to illegal activities in order to be able to pay this placement fee, the debt for the placement fee.
Thank you very much for the advice. And we have another question to Lennon. What would you recommend to businesses in Taiwan when they recruit workers? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think for the business, I am from the NGO, but I have a very friendly recommendation to all the business in Taiwan. Because actually, we are all in Taiwan. We are also a unity. If you are bad, if you are sanctioned, I also feel bad. So I think the best recommendation for our business is start to review our revenue and to have a calculation of the reasonable cost on the recruitment expenses. Because it is inevitable, you will have to pay for it. So if your company didn't pay for that yet, please start to calculate and put that as part of your capital. You have to put that money inside. In the past decades, most of the companies in Taiwan never pay the money to the agency for the recruiting migrant workers and for the services, for the translation and everything. But it cannot be like that. That's not sustainable. So please start to calculate, because that's the way we should do, to eliminate forced labor and also to make our business more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lennon. And do we have any questions? Thank you very much. We have a question from the audience.
Hi, thank you. I have a question for Mr. Achamou. I'm just curious, during your work at RHSF, have you ever taken any actions based on the duty of vigilance law, the French duty of vigilance law, and what is your take on the law? Do you think it's been effective in preventing forced labor and child labor in supply chains? Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your question. For the first part of the question, yes, we have been working on the field, and also one part of our action is experimentation. So we are trying to experiment on the field with stakeholders how to prevent risk of forced labor. This is actually my main mission, my main project, what I'm doing in Malaysia. So this is what we do. Is like we take the law, and then we are trying to translate the law into something, a practice, and to see what is working on the ground, and because we have to be there to work on it. So that's the experimentation part of it. The second part is about what I think about the law. Okay, Mr. Potier is here. I hope he's okay. But what I think about the laws, first thing is the law is existing, which is good, because when it first started, I think companies now they are obligation to do it. So the knowledge is spreading. So that's the first thing is good, because the company are like Mr. Potier said, there is company who are not fully compliant with this law. Company were taking a lot of action on this law. I cannot say like, oh, there is 10% of this. I don't have the data. I don't know all the companies. But one thing for sure is the perception, the company are actually aware of this, which is one thing. And like we said before, it's a new law, and of course, you know, people they have to update the law within their practices, so it takes time. It takes a lot of time, and that's what we are doing. We're trying to train. We're trying to translate the law into practices, to work with all the stakeholders, and we're hoping that with the law at the European level, we can bring another level of action, we will speed up all the action on it.
Thank you very much. We have another question in the audience. Please wait a moment for the microphone. Thank you, please.
I would like to ask about in Indonesia. Saya Mira dari IEDO Indonesia.
Sorry, we don't have any Indonesian translator.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Is it okay if it's in English?
So I am Mira from Indonesian Economic and Trade Office. So Indonesia really concerned with this forced labor, because we already have the regulation, and we also regulate the money that have to pay by the workers before they go abroad to work, and it is evaluate 1 year to see if the amount is still relate or still good in that situation. But in the thing that we difficult to find is the proof about how to say jual like placement fee. So the worker have to pay about 60 million until 100 million. If the if the job is really good and have overtime many times, the price is high. But if it's not have many overtime, the placement fee will be low. The workers say, yeah, I have to pay this amount. But if I ask the evidence, they don't have it. Even if they have it, they will pay it through the agencies, Indonesian agencies or the Taiwan agencies. And it is really difficult to prove that the placement fee is will be given to the employer. And if we talk about forced labor, who's the forced labor applied to? Does it only for the workers and the employer, or is it also applied to the agencies, to the placement agency? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mia, for this. I just want to give you a little bit what I think about this. So you mentioned that it's very hard to get the evidence from because yeah, of course, agent will never give a receipt. They will never give any kind of receipt to the workers saying that, oh, you are paid this. That will never happen. But we have to ask the question the other way. It's like we know that workers are at risk of paying. That we know. That we don't know is like if this particular person has paid. We don't know because we don't have the proof. My question will be like, like, I will take the question the other way. Is like, what makes the workers not pay for this? Like, what the agency can prove that, if the agency can prove that they didn't take the money from the workers, it means that they take the money from the employers. So I think it's more like the burden of the proof should be switched to the agent or to the employer. So because of course the agent will threaten the workers sometimes. If you talk to the PP2MI or to police or anyone, I will cancel your visa and everything. So the workers, they will not speak up. In my experience, is workers only speak up after months. Like even they arrive I'm working in Malaysia. Even if they arrive in Malaysia, we speak to them. They say no, we don't pay. After 8 months, 1 year, they start to speak up. So yeah, even sometimes they don't say, oh, I pay. They say, I don't pay, because they are very afraid of losing their job. So I think it's just to look the other way and assume they are paying and asking the agency they didn't pay, they didn't charge the workers. And of course, when you mentioned like forced labor apply to everyone, I think it's not black and white. There is no bad people and good people. There is good agency, there is bad agency, there is agency who are just trying to do the business the way they can, same for the employers, same for everyone. We shouldn't like treat companies or agency as bad people and workers as good people, and but we should have like more like a bit of nuance and some shade on it, and because that's our philosophy to work with every stakeholder. So I think it's very complex, but it involves everyone. It's also involving like the government. I mean, say like to solve this issue, it has to involve everyone.
Thank you. Due to the time constraint, do any of our speakers want to add on that or comment on the question? Mr. Potier or Isa or Leonard?
Just one supplement. I think I agree with that. The responsibility, we should shift it to the broker. And another hand, I think we can also consider the example from MECO, the Manila Economic and Cultural Office in Taiwan. Actually, the Philippine government, they asked their embassies all around the world to let the workers to complain. And usually, actually, they also don't have any evidence. But the workers then can make a statement. So their agents, the embassy will contact their Philippine agency to have a negotiation with the worker, and they will hold the meeting inside their embassy. So in MECO, they often have that kind of meeting. It's not perfect, I would say. Many brokers cheat. Many brokers pay in the office and they ask them to pay back. This kind of monkey business I always heard, but at least there is a system and there is a way that you don't really need to rely on the actual receipts. You can rely on the statements, the sworn statements from the workers. And maybe you can have a consideration on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to all our speakers from part 1. This concludes our first session. Thank you again to all our speakers for sharing their insights and valuable experiences. You may return to your seats in the audience. And ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short break until 3:30, and we have prepared some refreshments outside. Thank you very much, Mr. Potier, for joining us from Paris. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please enjoy the refreshments. Thank you. We will come back at 3:30. Electric Taiwan, Ms. Sylvia Wu, welcome. 掌声欢迎。Welcome. And next, please welcome Director of Polycord Optical Malaysia, Ms. Cynthia Samugang Dalvinder. Welcome. And next, we have the Project Principal Investigator of the Commissioned Research Program of Workforce Agency of Ministry of Labor, Professor Bing Long-Sing. Welcome, Professor Bing. And next, we have Managing Director of Human Resources Without Borders, RHSF, Ms. Magali Kohes. Welcome. And next, again, please welcome Director of the Department of Policies on Migrant Workers at Serve the People Association,桃园SPA, Mr. Leonard Inda Wong. Welcome. And before we begin, we would like to actually invite our online speaker joining us from Paris. Please welcome Global Head of ESG Research, Engagement and Voting, Ms. Caroline Lemot, to share with us the perspectives of investors. Welcome. Please go ahead.
Shall I start?
Yes, please go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. So I'm Caroline Lemot. I'm working for Amundi, which is the largest asset manager in Europe and one of the 10th largest in the world. I would like to start to say what is an asset manager. In fact, what we are doing, we are investing in companies for the money that our clients are giving us. And so, compared to a little bit before, I will concentrate what I'm discussing on companies and how we are looking at this question of forced labor. First, forced labor have been assessed by people like me for many years now. The only thing is, previously, we didn't have a lot of information on it. What the current situation has changed is the fact that we have more response, we get more response from the company we are invested in when we are engaging with them. So what we did, like it was 2 to 3 years ago, we analyzed that the company were more about doing some auditing to know if there were any forced labor in their supply chain. But this exercise was a kind of tick-the-box exercise and was not enough to really solve the problem. That's why we start an initiative with human resources with our border in order to work with them, with some other peers inside the French staff to find a framework, to define how to better discuss this matter with companies. So you could wonder why, as investors, we are very interested in that matter. The first thing is you have two main reasons. The first main reason that might be obvious, or three main reasons. The first main reason would be reputational risk. We see that when a company face some controversies in its supply chain, the impact on the value of the investment, it could be very large. So, you know, it could, in one day, you could lose up to 20% of the value of the equity. So, you know, the reputational risk is material from an investment point of view. The second point, which is important, as Dominique Potier said, it's about, you know, the regulation. The regulation is increasing, even if in France the law is from 2017, as the deputy told us, it's quite new, and we're only starting to understand the impact from a cost point of view today. But I think one of the most important things, and that will be more important from an investment point of view, because it will affect a much larger number of investments, is the effect that it gets on your business models, on your capacity to sell to others. And I think it's really important. And this is what we have seen over the last 12 to 18 months. And I think it's what will make the difference. So I will concentrate on that one. The first thing is, compared to before, more and more companies, especially having some activities in Europe, understand that their responsibility covers direct employee, but also indirect employees, meaning that they need to have reasonable insurance about the quality of their supply chain. It would cover forced labor, but it could cover everything related to biodiversity loss or nature of the link or climate. Why is it important? Because it's not only the final companies that will act, but also their clients. So meaning that European companies or anyone selling something in Europe might be affected and will therefore ask their supply chain if they comply with this law, which is important. And then, as a consequences, we have seen local authorities also acting on those. So, to be very precise, there's nowadays a dynamic amount. Even if you are based, for example, in South Asia, if you could be impacted because you could be in a situation where you can't sell anymore to some European market or European player. So meaning that we have seen some very local Southeast Asia company discussing forced labor and how they could, and deforestation, for example, which is, so how they could have some processes or change the way they were operating to make sure that there is no forced labor in their operation. And I think that through the fact that companies are not doing, checking their operation, through this phenomenon, we will have a strong influence in the fact that we will see less forced labor in the supply chain. I think when we engage company, we see that at the beginning, I mean, at the beginning when we start our engagement, it was slow, the improvement. It's getting better. Why? Because you have it's a systemic change where you have investors who are interested in the subject. You also have the clients, so if you want to sell the product, the best thing is when local authorities are also having the same dynamic to help the process. So this is for us something important, and it's not only a cost. So by definition, somehow, for the time being, the cost of we saw was mainly at the employee level. So probably there will be a cost somewhere, but you have also to see some opportunities, meaning that because of this regulation, because of this change of the dynamic, you will have countries who are tackling this subject will probably be in a better position in terms of market share than the one who are slow to react. Because, you know, at some point, companies that will have to be, they will be made responsible for their supply chain. The way they are assessing their risk, they will try to manage their risk and lower the risk that they can't manage. And this is, I think, is going to be quite helpful. For the time being, we are just starting to see company moving and trying to assess the different ways they can lower this risk. So, some examples that some example is, for example, in the palm oil industry, you see that because you have a lot of how to say, I mean, it's a sector where you need to have a lot of employees. We have a lot of risk of encountering some forced labor. We have been engaging several companies from this sector where we ask what are how they can improve their processes in order to better assess assess their workforce to make sure that they don't have any forced labor. So it's a process, you know. Nothing is going to change overnight, but some companies have made a lot of effort in order to minimize this risk. It depends also on the countries they operate, because some countries is easier than some other countries. So that's why I was explaining you that for us it's really important that local authorities also help in this dimension. And finally, I think this is important also to have this approach as we did with Human Resources Without Borders, because it is really a bottom-up approach, and it's really hard for I mean, every situation, every country might be different, and you need people in the different country, in the different region, to know the situation, to know the people, I mean, the country where they are from, what is the legislation, and so on and so forth, in order to help them. And this is also one of the difficulties to fight forced labor. It's very local. It's local where your activities is, and it's also local where the people are coming from. And you really need these people on the ground to help solve this. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a hand to Ms. Lemon for sharing her experience from Amundi. And next, let's hear from the perspectives of French client companies. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager of Schneider Electric Taiwan, Ms. Sylvia Wu, for her speech. Welcome.
贵宾，还有线上的贵宾，大家午安。我是施耐德电机台湾区总经理郭念慈 Sylvia。今天非常荣幸的能够来参加2023消除强迫劳动风险台法的一个研讨会，让我能够有机会跟各位分享施耐德电机身为历史悠久的一个跨国公司，我们在供应链里所面临的一个挑战跟决策，以及我们如何应对强迫劳动的一个做法。那施耐德电机呢，成立至今其实已经有187年的一个历史。那我们持续专注于协助客户及合作伙伴布局永续的一个发展，因此 ESG 的议题就是我们非常专注的一个重点。而我们认为整体供应链及员工的人权对未来永续的营运布局扮演着非常关键的一个角色。那过去企业因为身为劳资关系中握有较大权力的一方，所以呢常被归类在人权保障的一个对立面。然而，在强调永续发展的一个全球趋势下，企业已经被赋予日益增长的一个人权保障责任，也就是应该转变成企业应维护人权的一个理念。那常见的人权规范则包含联合国永续发展目标 SDGs、永续报道准则 GRI 的 standard， 以及 ISO 26000社会责任管理体系。还有道琼永续的指数 DJSI 评比等。那人权议题也同时牵涉 ESG 中的社会与公司治理的一个面向，可以说人权就是社会的一个议题，甚至整个永续议题的一个重要根本。而企业在人权治理上的一个表现，将影响内部员工、外部的客户、主管机关或是国际机构对企业营运表现的一个评价，进而影响营运的成果。因此，追求永续发展的企业就不可以忽视来落实人权治理的一个重要性。那以施耐德电机为例，我们的客户呢非常的要求我们在解决方案以及产品的一个品质、灵活性还有可靠性，因此我们也承受着高绩效的一个压力。那要成功因应这样子的一个压力呢，我们需要一个非常具有高效的一个全球供应链。因此，在施耐德电机，我们希望在全球能够与我们的供应链建立牢固、紧密的一个信任关系。因为我们相信，成功是集体努力的一个结果，而不是单一个个体公司或是个人就可以完成的。但要如何建立并巩固这样子的一个关系，我们认为可以从3个方面来进行来着手。首先呢，需要公司透过集体的努力，在品质、在技术上都要能够不断的一个精进。那特别是需要设计更可靠、更环保的一个产品跟零件来提升品质，并且呢，要跟供应商有定期并且是双向的一个沟通来讨论、来调整以及不断的一个优化。第二个部分就是要能够建立一个能够应对无法预测事件，譬如新冠疫情这样子的一个弹性供应链，以降低风险发生的一个可能性。第三是透过将施耐德电机和供应商的一个员工视为绩效跟质量的一个基本要素，并且将他们的福利跟工作条件都作为成功的一个关键因素。如同我在前面所分享的，除了整体供应链之外，员工的人权对企业永续营运布局也扮演非常重要的一个角色。那我们应该如何将重点也放在员工上面呢？那施耐德电机认为应该以 所谓的警戒责任计划，就是所谓的 duty of vigilance plan 为基础。那我们可以透过3个方式来进行解释。首先就是我们要针对我们的合作的一个供应商，检视他们所提供给员工的一个工作环境和条件是否有任何的一个风险的一个存在。第二个部分就是要制定现场的稽核计划，并且提早的来发现问题。第三，与供应商能够协同合作，并且呢能够实施改善员工工作环境条件的一个计划，并且要彻底的来落实。那每年呢，我们大约会针对200个供应商来进行稽核，其中大多数的一个供应商呢，都对此计划做出非常积极的一个反应，并且呢，与我们充分合作实施改进计划。那最常见的问题包括工作、健康、安全，还有工作的时数以及休息的一个时间。那在稽核供应商的时候，我们同时也会检视是否有环境有任何的一个污染，还有强迫劳动跟雇用童工等问题。此外，我们还与我们的主要供应商合作，来推动良好的一个工作改善计划。那在这个计划当中，除了基本需要关注的问题外，我们也关注更多对员工工作条件的改善重要的一个问题。那其中包含多样性与包容性、性别平衡、医疗保护以及生活工资等。那以台湾施耐德电机为例，我们非常注重所有员工的身心灵健康，所以我们不仅提供相关的一个咨询服务，那我们也提供每年的一个健康检查福利。那在 COVID 疫情之前呢，我们就已经实行了弹性上班以及居家办公的规范。那我们努力的提供优质的一个工作环境。那随着疫情的开始，我们也提供家庭的照护假。那也不定期的举办 Family Day、Summer Party、Christmas Party 等多元的一个活动。那我们让员工能够取得工作以及生活之间的一个平衡。那此外，我们的公司文化鼓励接受创新以及多元性。那我们承诺要打造人人享有性别平等、共融的文化，并且呢，致力在这个招募的聘用、那薪酬的一个福利以及训练的一个发展。那绩效升迁制度等面向，我们落实公平性，一视同仁地照顾所有的员工，那确保员工不会因为性别、不会因为年龄、种族、宗教信仰以及政治倾向的一个差异而遭受歧视、骚扰或不平等的待遇。那我们相信各种形式的一个多元效能够为公司带来真正的一个价值，因为多元性。性别、种族跟经验都可以带来创造性跟创新的一个结果。我们深信刚刚所提到的这些坚持跟努力，以及对于保护并维持供应链中的员工工作尊严是非常重要的，并且如果我们公司只在公司内部独自推行，那这些希望实现具高效率供应链的努力将无法成功的落实。因此，这样子的一个努力，必须让产业内部的一个工会，还有非政府的组织、同产业的公司跟公共部门，比如政府跟立法机构，都能够来共同参与。那未来我们也希望这样子的一个努力，能够跨越多个产业，持续的来推动，那带动所有的一个产业都能够来迎接共荣跟共好。那最后我想要分享的是，随着数位转型以及创新应用的一个普及，譬如人工智慧，还有机器学习等科技大量导入工作流程，那为企业的营运活动带来颠覆性的一个变革，员工的工作形态也将与时俱进。因此，人权治理的方式很可能会随着职场生态物换星移而需大幅的一个调整。但施耐德电机相信，人权保障的意涵跟精神将不会改变，因此所有的企业应该持续的关注如何落实人权保障，才能顺利协助企业迈向永续的发展。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much for this great piece to the scene. And next, from the perspective perspectives of companies in supply chains that recruit workers. Please welcome Director of Polycor Optical Malaysia, Ms. Cynthia Shanmugam Dalvinder, for sharing. Please welcome. 欢迎。
Thank you very much. A very good afternoon, honorable members of the Ministry of Labour Taiwan, members in Taipei, members of SPA and RHSF, and fellow speakers and distinguished guests. As you know, I'm from Polycor, Malaysia, and I'm just going to share with you my experience of what we went through with RHSF on forced labour. So, to cut a long story short, our journey on human rights began due to a customer audit on human rights issues in 2018. Just to give you a background, we are the makers of lenses, ophthalmic lenses, which helps to cure myopia. And what we did was, we failed this audit twice. And you can imagine at that time, because we were using services of agents, and it was found that they had broken the basic requirements of human rights. Our workers were charged recruitment fees, they were paying for their accommodation, they lived in unsafe accommodation, and there were deductions carried out that we were not aware of, as we were paying the agents and the agents were paying the workers their salary. In January of 2020, I joined Polycor. My MD at the time, Mr. Antonio Del Valle, and my VP of Operations, Mr. Sebastian Savarot, challenged my team and I to work on and to pass this audit. Mr. Sebastian then sought the help of RHSF. We worked day and night, literally, for 1.5 months. It's been 3 years now. And on February 2020, February 14, mind you, we passed the audit. It was a sweet victory for us. But it was only the beginning of our journey. RHSF began training us and guiding us, and very patiently, very uncondemningly, always encouraging, saw us through various milestones and various stages in our journey. In 2021, when COVID hit, and it had sort of subsided, we hopped on this bandwagon with RHSF on a project called Resolution. This project was to guide us in the recruitment process. The first process in obtaining workers. It was an end-to-end process. We did not use the services of local agents in Malaysia. It is not to say that we cannot use their services, but we had to be extra careful. And to ensure that the agents did not collect money from their counterparts in the source country, that the agents in the source country and the agents in Malaysia did not have to pay under-table money to the employers to be appointed as agents for us, and also that the future employees did not pay their employment either by way of monetary or having their land titles and academic certificates, ration cards being held ransom in order to obtain a job. Besides all this, it gave us, the employers, an opportunity to meet with the workers directly and interview them instead of meeting them only when they arrived in our country. And even if you meet them online, nothing compares to meeting them face to face in their own environment. Also, we wanted to know firsthand the cost to us as employers of shouldering all the expenses of bringing in a migrant worker, from the initial travel from their village to the agent's office, accommodation, food, passport, visas, medical checkup, etc. And the best way to do that would be by being present at the host country, which would give us the opportunity to interview the source country agents with the help of RHSF, and we would make known to the agents our strong policy on human rights, which was strictly, number 1, no collecting money from the workers. Number 2, no paying of the employer's representatives, that is, people like me. And 3, no to the use of middlemen. Obviously, it meant more work for us, but it was satisfying. What were the challenges that we faced? We convinced source country agents that we would pay for everything. It was a shock to them. It was a very foreign concept. It is getting more familiar now though. The second challenge we face, to get the source country agent to understand that they would not use middlemen because there was opportunity for forced labor, as it would be difficult to ensure that money did not change hands. Number three, to ensure that source country agents and their representatives did not collect academic certifications, ration cards, land titles, passports, or any other documents which constituted as an element of forced labor. We had to draw up employment contracts in the native language and in words that employees could understand. And the fifth one was application of quota. So that was dealing with our government. We had to apply for quota, undergo interviews held in other provinces outside of our province, following up with the authorities, changes in the requirements of the government agencies, changes in approving authorities, obtaining approvals from federal government agencies instead of state government. Just to give you a background, from where we are to the federal government, it's about 300 kilometers. The sixth matter was language barrier. As you can imagine, we have Nepali workers, we have Vietnam workers, we have Cambodian and Myanmar workers. So language barrier during the interview at the source country was a challenge. And because of that, there was cost involved because we had to engage an NGO at the source country to work with us to ensure that the people did not pay any fees and the agents did not demand any money. Simply because as an employer, most of the employees would be afraid to speak to us. So speaking to someone from their own country, an NGO, they felt more comfortable. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There are opportunities. Amidst all these challenges that we learned, that every challenge came with new knowledge, new insights, and new perspectives. In Nepal, people on average travel 30 hours by bus to come for the interview. In Indonesia, people on average travel 8 hours by motorcycle to come for the interview. We also had the opportunity to visit the villages of the people we had interviewed and decided were going to be employed, speaking to their families, showing them the places their family members would be working at, the amount of money they would be earning, give them peace of mind, especially since we were present and they could ask us questions. We even had some of our current workers do a short video in their native language explaining what their experience was working with us. It was an opportunity to understand their culture, their lifestyle, their living conditions. So we knew how to construct proper orientation programs. Most importantly, it built a silent relationship of trust between the worker and us, the employer, because they knew we cared. Most of the villages we visited were far away from the city and several areas were mountainous, and it was not accessible by a four-wheel drive. And so we had to walk up here. It gave us an insight into their lives. At that point, we were informed that they had never seen any employer come to the village to meet with the family. We built trust and confidence. What is resolution? In coming into this project with limited knowledge, we learned about the definition of what constitutes forced labor, child labor, and human trafficking. We learned how to identify when it has occurred. We learned how to deal with it. How do we speak to the source country agents about this topic and our needs to adhere to this topic? Carrying out audits on the source country agents to ensure compliance. Carrying out trainings for local employees, especially in production and procurement, on the topics of forced labor, child labor, human trafficking, and human rights, so that they are also able to identify these topics among the locals, as well as migrant workers in and out of the factory. In this program, we also did drawing up of guidelines for the recruitment process, having MOUs with source country agents, having proper policies and guidelines on the recruitment process, working alongside our local NGO in Malaysia, Tenaga Nita, and RHSF, and carrying out trainings for our workers on sensitive topics such as sex work, alcoholism, sexual harassment, unwanted pregnancies, and STDs. Having an employee welfare committee with representatives from each country represented, including our locals, it has become a platform for the employees, both migrant and local, to be able to speak to the employer about matters that are important to them. It came about to ensure that our migrant workers especially had a voice to represent them, and by representatives from their own countries. With the help of RHSF, we have now come a long way from where we were. However, we learned early on human rights is not a destination, but a continuous journey. We have learned so much, and I know we will continue to learn together with our employees as we continue to embark on this journey. But it is a worthwhile journey. We see how it has changed the relationship between employee and employer. And this is proven when we look at the statistics. In the years prior to our journey of human rights, the attrition rate was approximately 10% in our plant. Today, the attrition rate is below 1%, and we are a fully manufacturing plant. During the COVID, the management approved a budget to ensure that all our employees were given groceries, to ensure no one was hungry and without the basic necessities. At that point, many migrant workers from other factories called us and asked us to employ them because word had gotten around that we were employers that took care of our employees. Just as was shared just now by Mr. Lennon, there was a No Movement Act at that time. We provided food, medicines, and vitamins and ensured that we kept in touch with them despite the lockdown. We communicated with them via WhatsApp groups, we encouraged them, we arranged for our workers to speak to counselors from the government hospitals to ensure that their mental health was also looked into, as many of them lost their aged parents and some lost some young children during the period and they were not allowed to travel home. Let me share my experience as an individual and as a company director and also HR rep. I embarked on this journey with my team. I must admit, I have a great team and an absolutely amazing management. My team, my new MD, Mr. Patrice L, and the management of our group who stood by me and with me on this journey, regardless of the challenges and difficulties we faced. The workload, I will not lie, it tripled, it quadrupled, because now we had to do everything by ourselves. We had to apply for the paperwork, the immigration processes, visas, permits, passports, dealing with the embassies, health checks, government organizations, hospitals, dealing with holiday arrangements, human relation matters, hostels, transport issues, health issues, disciplinary issues. We handled it all. It just meant that now the HR team was on call 24 hours. If they felt sick, we would have to handle it, taking them to the hospital, the clinic, solving disputes, being mediators. We even had to come between them and illegal money lenders. By building a good relationship between us and the police, these matters were quickly resolved. We are the family to them away from home, and yet we also had to be the disciplinarian. How does this affect the company? These workers are committed to their work. They don't just work for Polycor, they are Polycor. We know them by name, at least most of them, because I have approximately 700 workers. We knew that we needed them as much as they needed us. It was not a one-sided relationship. We today are proud to say that we are a melting pot of cultures and nationalities. Currently, we have 9 nationalities in our company, and we live harmoniously. We work together for the betterment of the company, the group, and ourselves. I learned one thing. They are no different than you and I. They would work all day if they were allowed, but that does not give us the right to exploit them. We need to treat them the way we want to be treated. This is an entire team effort, from the top management to our supervisors and production management team. who have had a 180-degree change happen to them since we embarked on this journey with the knowledge provided by RHSF via trainings conducted. As the saying goes, knowledge is power. The organizational commitment of an employee is dependent on the way we treat them. Emotional intelligence has become a very important topic to be managed. Also, the HR team will have to have good attitude. Just having a degree is not sufficient. The saying is, you can teach a man technical knowledge, but you cannot teach a man attitude. That is his behavior, it is him. So we learned on that it is very important to dive in and understand the culture and norms of the countries we're going to, so that we do not offend them. And it has taken us a long way. And finally, my takeaway. I understand now how much an employee goes through in order to leave his or her country and emigrate to another country with so many hopes and dreams. The principal reason for them to even leave their families is because they do not have the finances to provide livelihood for their family. And instead of helping them, certain groups of people add on to that burden by requiring them to pay very high fees, which causes them to sell, mortgage, whatever they have, whatever. We've heard of cows, houses, lands being mortgaged. They surrender their academic certificates and that of their family members, surrendering of their ration cards to come to a totally foreign land to provide the basic necessities to their families. We need to stop the trafficking of migrant workers, forced labor and child labor. Children should be in school and given the right to be educated. But as long as there are people who are only interested in making money, there will continue to be forced labor, child labor, and people being trafficked. The control of these practices begins with each one of us taking responsibility. My final takeaway, although more often than not we think of migrant workers when we think of human rights, but it involves both migrant and local. I would like to end by saying that our ultimate goal is to ensure that local employees and migrant employees understand their rights as employees of Polycorp and also as human beings. At this time, I would like to thank Aziz, who has stood by us these last 3 years and gone through the ups and downs everywhere with us, and he's been extremely patient. Thank you very much.
在座各位关心移工权益的这个，不管是国内或国外的贵宾，大家午安哈。那今天非常高兴有这个机会来参加这个非常有意义而且非常重要的一个会议哈。那之所以有意义，之所以重要，是移工权益的保障已经几乎快要成为普世的价值哈。那当然，台湾的政府在这方面也非常的重视。 除了一开始我们就把移工纳入我们的劳动基准法的一个适用范围，也就它可以跟本国劳工一样得到劳动基准法的保障之外，那基本上我们在很多的法律，包含我们就业服务法，也严格的规定这个我们的仲介有不得超收费用等等之类的。那虽然有这样的一个保护呢，有些法律的这样的一个规范，有些这样的法律的保护，可是我们还是常常听到。 台湾的移工被超收费用，甚至被贩卖人口。那从这地方就可以看出一个问题：土法不足以自行。也就是如果只有法律，只靠政府，我们很难去把我们要达到的目标来达到。所以这种情况底下，我们这个协会就在思考有没有其他更有效的方法，可以跟政府的规范做一个结合。所以当时我们就想到，那时候国内刚好在谈 RBA 的东西。 那我们认为 RBA 是一个透过市场力量来保障移工权益的，或许它是一个我们可以去推动这个政策目标的一个方法、一个契机。另外一个方面呢，我们政府台湾政府也为了要避免一些不好的仲介超收费用做一些对移工权益有损的事情， 我们也一直在努力推动直聘制度。那事实上 ，RBA 跟直聘制度在我们当时的想象呢，或者现在还是一样有这样的想象，它是一个可以相辅相成的，也就是透过 RBA， 或许可以让更多的雇主来选择从这个直聘的这样的一个方式来引进移工哦。所以这种情况底下，我们就跟我们的劳动部劳动与发展署的提出了一个研究计划，就来看看台湾的 RBA 的实施的情况。那看有没有可能透过公私协力，也就是政府跟民间这个合作的方式，让对移工的权益保障能够更加落实。那也就是因为我们当时这个发展所长官也非常乐意我们去做这样的研究。那也就是因为这样子，所以我今天会在这里哦，我也乐意的把我们所看到的台湾在 RBA 的这个推动的实务，以及直聘制度推动的实务，就这个机会来跟各位做个分享。好。好，那我的整个简报大概分成几个部分。第一个就是跟各位介绍一下 RBA， 我想可能在座很多的先例都知道什么叫 RBA 的哦，不过我还是很快的跟各位做个介绍。那接下来呢，就跟各位说明我们看到的在台湾通过个案的访谈，了解到国内的企业落实这个 RBA 的这种情况。然后再就是谈一下如何把 RBA 的制度跟我国的相关制度做个结合。那接下来就谈一下直聘制度，然后就是我的结语。下一页。那整个 RBA 呢，基本上 RBA 它我们把它翻成中文，就这个负责任的商业联盟。就我们所了解的，它纵使不是最大，也是全球这个规模还有影响力非常显著的一个商业联盟。而这个商业联盟的主要成立的目的呢，就是想透过一些商业的规范，透过一些行为的准则，来确保在全球供应链底下，一些从事劳动的，包含移工在内呢，他们的健康安全等等之类的。那还除了这个以外呢，当然还有它的环境保护都在这里面哦。所以在这部分呢，它的关于劳工的部分 ，RBA 的规范呢，大概可以分成几个部分哦。那我这个地方我就不再细述哦。其中跟我们最有关的就是所谓的自由选择就业，而在这个自由选择就业里面，就是非常明确的要求，除了参加 RBA 的会员必须自己遵守之外，也要去影响他们的供应商呢，能够来禁止强迫劳动那另外就是包含这个自由转换雇主等等之类的那这些都是自由选择权的一部分。我想，所以 RBA 这部分跟我们今天所讨论的议题呢，事实上是非常有关系。包含在座我刚才提到的马来西亚的供应链的公司，或者是我们另外一家公司，基本上我们都可以透过供应链管理，透过一个商业利益的约束，我们的供应商呢来落实某些行为准则。我想这是一个我们当初非常认为这是个非常有效的一个方法哈。那我们下一页。在 RBA 的会员制度呢，大概可以分成4种，我想这种意义我就不再赘述。它最主要是，它也认为说，要去落实 RBA 的相关的行为准则，不是一触可及的。所以这种情况底下，为了避免揠苗助长也就是它有不同的 level、不同的层次那当然越高层次，你对于 RBA 的行为准则的遵守的程度就要越高，然后让每个厂商想要加入 RBA 的会员，可以依你现在的状况选择适当的一个会员的这个资格来参加那既然直到2023年呢，全球的 RBA 的会员当中呢，台湾所占的比例大概只有1成那包含这个台积电、宏基、台达电、友达这些东西，这些知名的电子厂都是在 RBA 的会员属于 RBA 的会员。那当然 RBA 是目前为止是以电子业为主要下一页。那接下来我们来看一下 RBA 的它的这个稽核机制那我刚才有提到了 RBA 最主要它的约束力不是透过政府的法律规范，最主要是透过消费者跟投资方，就我们刚才讲的一些投资公司，他们透过他们的行为，直接来要求给这些企业的一些压力，让他们愿意遵守 RBA 的相关的机制。我想这个是一个完全诉诸于商业利益的这样的一个方式。我想这个部分我再强调，我们认为在一个资本主义就在一个市场经济为主的这样的一个台湾，这个制度我觉得它的效果是蛮明显的。好， 那在 RBA 的这个稽核有2个部分呢，一个是 VAT 哈，那基本上它是要透过第三方的认证机构做一些审核，审核通过了以后呢，它才可以取得一个认证哈。那除了这个 VAT 的这个稽核之外呢，比较特别的是它有一个叫做 SPA 稽核。那这 SPA 稽核最主要就针对中介，也就是针对 RBA 的会员它的供应商。如果你有聘请移工的话，那么对于你的这个负责移工招募的这个中介呢，你也要做一个稽核。那但是目前这个 SBAT 的稽核呢，并没有强制的要求，但是有这样的一个机制在哈。好，下一页。那至于说 RBA 在跟我们今天的议题比较有关的移工招募的规范，我想就是一个很简单的讲法，就是不用付费哈，就是劳工在任何时候不应被要求支付有关申请、招募、雇用、安置或处理的费用。那如果劳工一旦被雇用了，这些费用都不用缴。那如果事先缴了怎么办呢？雇主有责任把他事先缴的钱还给移工。我想这是他最主要的一个精神哈。那当然，在这个精神、这个原则之外，底下有些例外的情形，比如说这个移工还没到这个雇主还没做报到之前呢，他就回国了。这个情况下呢，这个过程的费用呢，那基本上移工要自己付哈。第二个部分呢，基本上如果移工不是在雇主主动招募的一个地方，他自己跑去应征的，这些相关的费用呢，基本上移工肯定要自己付。再来，他准备面试的一些基本资料的费用，移工要自己付。再来宿舍跟膳食的部分，如果有明定在劳动契约，而且这个费用是合理的情况底下，这时候肯定要移工自己付。所以有些例外的情况，好，我们下一页。接下来我们就跟各位讲一下台湾的企业在遵循 RBA 行为准则的现况。因为这个计划是一个临时的一个小型的计划，所以基本上我们不可能做非常大规模的一个survey哈。所以我们基本上我们是在透过短短的1-2个月时间呢，我们在国内呢做了8家企业的一个访谈。那这8家包含了一些半导体业啊，这个电脑相关设备业、汽车零组件业哈。那基本上的访谈结果是，这些已经加入 RBA 的会员，他们都认为说，刚开始加入的时候，确实在行政作业上会有些困扰。可是，一旦上手了以后呢，基本上他们认为这个稽核的部分，或者是来遵守的部分呢，基本上并没有非常大的一个障碍，没有很大的障碍。那另外我们也很关心这个 RBA 的相关规定跟我国的这些劳动法令的之间的有没有一个竞合的关系？那他们大部分都认为它是一个互补的关系哈。下一页。好，那基本上这个在遵循 RBA 的行为准则的一个负担部分呢？那我们的发现，如果是大型企业，目前加入大概都大型企业，大型企业对于这个负担这个负担当然包含2部分，一个是加入 RBA 会员的相关的费用，以及为了落实 RBA 的会员责任而必须负的费用。这个部分国内的大型企业基本上都认为没有问题，但是国内台湾是以中小企业为主，有些中小企业负担就会比较困难，所以这时候就会影响到我们的供应链管理。如果是属于一个比较间接供应商的这个中小企业的话，基本上它比较没办法去参加或遵守 RBA 的相关规范。下一页。好，那这个下一页就是我刚才有跟各位讲的这个部分就是直接供应商。基本上我们的访谈结果 ，RBA 对于它的直接供应商，就是它的低维外围的这个供应商，基本上也会要求他加入 RBA 的会员，也会要求。但是呢，如果它是属于间接的，就是属于第2维、第3维以外的这个供应商，基本上他们只会辅导他们，或是希望他们加入，但并不会强迫。那最主要原因就是我刚才讲的，它的负担的费用基本上是蛮高的下一页。那至于说我们刚才讲的，我们对于这个 SBAP 的看法，那基本上我们的了解，纵使是 RBA 的会员，也不必然会要求为他提供服务的这些中介呢。去接受 SBAP 的稽核，那原因就是他们认为我没有必要，或者是他认为台湾的中介呢可能没办法去负担这样的东西。那另外一种可能是他认为只要透过他的要求，是让各位我必须坦白讲，我的观察，对于中介的行为最有影响力的就是雇主，尤其是在产业移工方面，就在这个产业移工。那当然个别的这种所谓的个别家庭的移工这部分，因为我们的雇主比较没有 parking power， 但是如果是产业移工的话，他的 parking power 尤其是中大型企业，它的bargaining power是非常非常的大的。所以这种情况下，只要他愿意配的话，都可以做到。所以这种情况底下，他们并没有要求去参加这样的一个SBAP 的稽核。那同样的，我们的中介对于参加 SBAP 的稽核，基本上也认为目前阶段是言之过早，还不是很成熟的阶段。好，下一页。那接下来我们就看 RBA 跟我国相关制度的一个结合。那有关于这个职聘部分，我将会跟各位讲。那基本上我们当初有个想法，是我们希望有更多的厂商、更多的中介能够加入 RBA 的稽核。那要给他一个诱因的方式，就是说好，如果你获得了 SBAP 的这样的一个稽核的话，你可以在这个中介的评鉴上方面呢，可以有加分，或者是可以免评鉴。结果实际上我们的这个问卷调查结果也好，或者是我们的深入访谈，大多数的中介并不支持这样的看法。那不支持的原因，最主要是他们认为我的雇主、我的客户也没有给我这样的要求。再来呢，他们认为这个SBAP 的稽核项目呢，跟中介的评鉴项目呢是有落差的。所以在这种情况底下，我们的问卷调查结果大部分都是反对。不过这个我也不意外因为要让台湾的中介去接受这样，我知道我们在座有一位中介是有接受这样的一个 SBAP 的稽核我想那是一个非常不容易的一件事，也是非常难得好，下一个。我就要看我们的职聘制度，下一页。那基本上，台湾的这个职聘制度呢，最主要当初推这个职聘制度，最主要是让雇主有多元的管道可以引进移工，除了透过中介之外呢，也可以有自己来直接聘雇。那当然，直接聘雇，不管在行政程序也好，或者是在招募移工这方面，有非常多的困难。所以这时候就有需要政府的一个来协助他。所以当初提供职聘服务的目的，就像这边所写的3个：第一个，保障雇主及移工的权益；第二个，减轻移工来台工作的经济负担；第三个，符合我国重视国际人权及社会公益的期待。我们必须讲，国内的有些中介确实良莠不齐，不好的中介是造成移工权益不能得到保障的一个非常重要的因素。所以这种情况下，如果透过职聘制度可以造成国内中介业的生态的改善，我觉得是一个好事好，下一页。那直接聘雇我们讲的直接聘雇服务的服务项目有非常非常多，我就不再一一的赘述那直聘中心成立到目前为止，已经服务超过18万名的雇主跟移工，也为他们节省国内外的中介费用约新台币82.37亿元，这个数量是有的然后再来就是2016年有协助制造业雇主采专案选工的方式，也就是在选工方面给他们有更多的协助呢。那这移工来源国已经引进了2300名的移工。好，下一页。那基本上我们一直希望说，因为 RBA 会要求雇主来付所有的中介费用，那有没有因此而可以引导企业去走向直聘制度那基本上我们对于企业所做的深度访谈也好，或者是我们做的问卷调查也好，那个结果并不如我们所预期的那么的好很多的雇主，因为我们调查大概都还是以制造业为主，很多的雇主还是不愿意走直聘，那原因是他们还是觉得直聘很麻烦。更重要的原因是，他们把很多中介引进移工的这个工作都交给了我们的中介，而中介基本上未必会跟他们收费。所以在这种情况底下，他们还是希望用中介来帮他们提供服务所以这部分当然也是需要再努力的下一页。所以我想对移工权益的保障，就像我刚才讲，它几乎要成为普世的价值那所以包含这个公平招募的这些相关的公约，我相信未来一定是一个趋势。所以我同意刚才英达所讲的，国内的雇主必须体认到这样的一个事实。那你必须改变你对聘雇移工的一些成本的考量。你不要以为聘雇移工是成本很低廉，然后很好用。我想这观念要改变。我觉得未来的移工，他的权益一定会日益受到重视。至于我们今天针对我们讨论的这个题目呢，对议题呢，我认为真的不要期待一切都是透过政府的力量，透过法律。我想这个是不大容易的。我们肯定必须有多元的管道相辅相成。虽然我们目前所看到的我们的结果不如我们所预期的，可以透过 RBA 的推动，透过直聘来达到我们所要达到的政策目标，但是我觉得我还是建议我们的政府相关单位能够继续的努力，继续的推动。谢谢。
Thank you very much, Professor. And next like to invite our speakers representing RHSF and SPA. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Managing Director of RHSF, Ms. Magali Coes, and also the Director of Department of Policies on Migrant Workers at SPA, Mr. Leonard Inda Wong. Both are speakers. Welcome. Hi.
So, just I guess will be easier. So RHSF is an independent, non-profit field research organization. We have been studying forced labor for nearly 2 decades in different countries. I will hand over to Mr. Leonard Wong in a few minutes, but I will just take these few minutes to dip a little bit further in what was said today. Actually, first we've partnered with Serve the People Association for many years because their knowledge is instrumental to grasp the reality of the migrant workers, and their expertise in workers' association and social dialogue is so valuable. It is actually the first priority set by the International Labour Organization in its last report, the 2022 Global Estimate on Forced Labour, and I quote, "Respect for the freedoms of workers to associate and to bargain collectively is indispensable to a world free from forced labour." So yes, laws, regulation, norms and standards are necessary, but that's not enough. We learned 2 things at RHSF after all this time spent in the daily operations of factories. First, business professionals don't really connect their daily job to what underlies these norms and standards. The way they buy, the way they manage people, the way they calculate operational cost doesn't change. Business practices contributing in one way or another to forced labor are still ongoing. Second, some standards trigger sometimes new behaviors that negatively affect the workers. So people exposed to forced labor are still exposed to it. Forced labor is even increasing in Europe, according to the last International Labour Organization report. Why? Norms and standards don't address the core problem yet, the economics of forced labor. Several studies try to assess the profits of forced labor. No consensus can be made on the exact number, but one exists on its range. Billions of dollars. Billions of dollars of profits are made across the world, and this money is taken from the worker. So a worker recruited in one country to work in another country may pay several months, and I think we had a lot of testimonial today about that it's true, it's real, it's there. We even witnessed, in one place, a worker who paid more than 26 months equivalent of wage for a 36-month contract. I don't know any company who will accept tomorrow to pay this amount of money if we tell this company, you need to pay now the recruitment fee. So, forced labor is very lucrative. Those who are making profits are not ready to let it go. So what happens when we ask, for example, an agency to stop taking money from the workers. I underline here that many agencies in the world are really valuable service providers. Recruiting people requires expertise that sometimes employers don't have. But this service has a cost. And we can't ignore that an agency is also a business. So I can share with you what we face in the field. So when an agency wants to become a fair agency, they try to find clients who accept to pay the fees. When they do, it's much lower than the amount that was collected from the worker previously. When they don't, the agency gets the money from the worker anyway. Like this agency who stopped charging the workers with a recruitment fee just to comply with the code of conduct, and now they charge a translation fee, which is allowed by this code of conduct. The amount is exactly the same. And how do we expect the agency to manage their current portfolio of clients? How can they combine two business models? One for clients who pay, and one for clients who don't pay. And what about the intermediaries who scout workers for agency? They still want to make money. So now they sell different services to the workers, like this intermediary in a source country who provides now a family care service to guarantee to the worker that his or her family will be fine while he or she is abroad. And what about the workers themselves? When we urge them to use free recruitment channel, actually most of them don't trust this free recruitment channel because they think that the free recruitment may lead to bad jobs, is the first thing. Some of them also would like to be close to their friends or relatives, and this free recruitment channel can't bring them with their friends and relatives. Here's another example about the importance of understanding the economics. As you may know, responsible standards require a decent housing for workers, and we had an example today that sometimes they could be quite indecent. I can share this case of a supplier who was audited by its foreign client. The dormitories were not compliant, so the client requested its supplier to upgrade them. Eventually, the total cost of the upgrade was deducted from the workers' wages. The client asked for compliance without knowing the consequence, and the workers still bear the burden. Since 2020, we partner with the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs and multinational companies to experiment a comprehensive approach in the global supply chains. We observe how the stakeholders think of new practices once and only once they are empowered with deep knowledge of forced labor mechanism. They develop practices that are consistent with due diligence requirements, but adapted to the local context and that address the root causes of forced labor. Empowering with deep knowledge is the first step of what we call capacity building. With this capacity, investors can connect the way they evaluate company to the prevention behavior of companies. Client company can connect the way they manage prevention in their supply chain to the many labor realities we can find around the world and to their relations with their suppliers and affiliates. With this capacity, Supplier companies and agencies can connect their daily operations to the reality of workers and the actual regulation they must comply with. With this capacity, governments can connect due diligence laws requirements and fair recruitment principle to local regulation and the actual practices of different stakeholders on the ground. With this capacity, civil society organizations can connect their activities to the different mechanisms which are required by due diligence, like recruitment monitoring or grievance mechanism, and they can work with each other. All these stakeholders contribute to global supply chain that we know, and they are quite good at it. We must take the opportunity of the due diligence laws to contribute to a global prevention chain. Taiwan, France, and all the other countries must develop and expand a shared understanding of forced labor. With this seminar today, we have a glimpse of what we can learn from each other. We look forward to having some of you participating to this journey and experimenting new practices in your role, in your territory, which have a positive impact on people in the global supply chain. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I will follow up. So I think following up my reminding to our business, I think we still have some time to prepare cope with the international standards. But actually, I will say we don't really have too much time. I have a few points. The first is we can prepare by learning. What to learn? First thing is learning to learn the forced labor. Okay, what is forced labor? What is the standards, indicators of forced labor, and the content, and how to cope with it, how to change, what we can do to have a change, and also to learn the cost. Like Magali just said, if it's the employer to pay the recruitment process, they have the bargaining power. They have much bigger bargaining power than the migrant workers. So they can check the real costs of the recruitment process. Actually, that's what we have been doing with RHSF in the past few years. We already made the research, and mostly done by them, but we help them to collect some data. We already have some analysis for the real costs to recruit the migrant workers from the source country. If the business doesn't trust it, you can build your own research on that, or we can work together. We can see how much really takes. As an NGO, we don't really say so radical like some others that we want to eliminate the whole worker system, even though I support. But I know that's very hard because we have so many agencies for 3 decades. But what we can do, what we can demand, is to transfer the cost from the migrants to the employer, and that will be more fair, and that's already requested by the world. And secondly, and what I also mentioned in my previous sharing, we should try to have a public audit instead of a private audit that's done by the company themselves or other international but private sectors, which is still questionable. I will say maybe we need to involve more more stakeholders to involve with the auditing system. The unions, the labor organizations, and other social organizations to be involved in the whole auditing system to make the audit more real. So auditors can get the real information from the company. Okay, not like what is happening now. And the third, we should try out more new channels, maybe not only one, new channels of recruitment from international recruitment for the migrant workers from the source country to the country of destination, including the direct hiring, okay, and also the recruiting through the non-profit agencies, or at least the agencies that guarantee for fair recruitment. I'm not boasting for ourselves, but we and also one of the organizations who also attended here, we are the first two non-profit agencies in Taiwan. But both of us, we didn't recruit any migrants from abroad yet. But this is a channel. Okay, I'm not saying you have to use by this way, but this is one channel. But direct hiring is also another channel. Or we can build up other public channels, like what also other groups also requested, G2G. Like the EPS system in Korea. It's not perfect, I know, but it's another alternative. And at least the migrant workers under that channel, supposedly they don't need to pay. And I want to sum up some international structures that we have to be reminded the time is not waiting for us. The first, there are so many international conventions, including the International Convention for Migrant Workers and their families. This is one of the core international human rights convention that our government is also reviewing. I believe in a few years we will ratify this convention. Of course, we use the domesticalization process in Taiwan. So in this convention, it says clearly the migrant workers cannot pay for their job. Okay. And second, we already heard from Aziz's introduction for the indicators of forced labor from International Labor Organization. The 11 indicators, actually Aziz only mentioned a few. If you see the 11 indicators, all of them are rampant and popular among the migrant workers in Taiwan. So we have to change. If you let any people from ILO, from other international organizations to see the real situation of the migrant workers in Taiwan, they will say, definitely, that's forced labor. No doubt. We have to change, or we will have to shame. And also the trade agreements. Okay, we have many trade agreements, including the one which is happening now, the US-Taiwan Trade Initiative. We have very powerful resource that the US side, they will put the forced labor in the agreement, in the context, in text of the other agreement. So which means the forced labor will be a topic, one of the most important topic in this agreement. What does it mean? What does it imply? If we have any products made by the workers through the forced labor, this product might be banned to US. This company might be banned to US. Isn't it a big warning sign for all of the business here? So I will also say that our government should also play a very important role. As Professor Singh already told us, actually RHSF also found that a few years ago, even on the contract between our companies and the many agencies, it says clearly there's zero fees. How could that be possible? In Taiwan, if you hire a caretaker at home, you need to pay the agency for more than 15,000, something like that. But if you hire the migrant workers to your company for 100, for 500, for 1,000, you don't need to pay anything. And you can get the kickbacks. And you can have all the free services from the agency. We have some friends from the agencies here. I think they also feel abused by the companies. I mean, this is not to blame any single stakeholder, but we have to see the fact and we have to change what's happening altogether. And this is our common responsibility. So I think the learning process and a strong will to change the present situation is very important. And it takes the works for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Liz and Dr. Wong for sharing. And I'd like to open the floor for questions. So do we have any questions from the floor? Yes, we have one. Please wait a second for... Welcome.
谢谢，我是劳动力发展署报告劳动力管理署苏玉国署局长。那我想我的问题特别想要请教 CC 啊，就是特别刚刚我们听到6年来跟马来西亚这边的这个供应商跟 RHSF 做，非常的辛苦。那我们也了解到说，这个公司呢这边从以前委任中介，后来改成自主的招募跟雇用。那我想这个成就非常的佩服。那让我也想到台湾这边也有类似的企业，像南亚电子，他们后来也是用自主招聘的方式来引进劳工。但我有以下几个问题可能也进一步再请教一下，可不可以跟我们多分享一些？第一个，特别是在后来有公司自己招募的时候呢，是跟 NGO 这边来做合作，是特别跟当地的 NGO 来合作嘛？因为刚刚我想Lennon 也有提到，或许后来在台湾这边也有这样的一个方式多元聘雇的管道。那第二个部分，我也想请教，6年以来，在马来西亚政府以及来源国政府，特别在招募端以及在中介端这边，是否有做了一些不同的改变跟努力？那第三个部分，我也想要请教，在未来的部分，因为刚刚也有提到，像这个我们公司其实也是一个蛮大的集团，是一个大型的企业。那未来是否也会波及到你们的供应商？因为你也深深的了解，像台湾这边也是很多的中小企业，他们的能力比较有限。那这个部分未来在公司里面有一些协助或辅导。那再来，刚才其实有提到有带来一些好处，包括这个人员的流动率降低，我们看到很显著的降低成1%。那我也想请教，就是说公司在这边做了这样的改变之后，有没有为公司集团带来更多的商机，或者是在产品的品质提升上面有没有一些显著的改变？那最后一个问题，可能不是特别是这样的，那或许看是不是我们与谈者的回答哦。就是刚才我们也看到新教授有分享，台湾这边其实对 RBA 的这样的制度比较熟悉，那也有几家的这个中介业者通过 SPA。那特别想到前面大概也有分享。如果有良好的这些中介，他们也可以找到这个愿意使用或者是支持这个降低强迫劳动的这些雇主。那我也好奇是说，如果符合 RBA 的现行的这些台湾厂商，未来是不是也有可能会符合我们包括法国或者是欧盟尽职调查法这样的一个标准？那或许对他们来讲的话，更是一个往这个方向努力的一个动机。晚上。
Thank you. So due to the time, we have several questions, so we all invite our speakers to answer them. Yeah. Please.
Okay. To start with, thank you very much for the questions. We've been working with RHSF for 3 years. But yes, when you say do we work with only local NGOs, no we do not. What happens is, like on our latest recruitment, Aziz and myself and my team, we went to Indonesia and Nepal. We speak to local agencies there and we explain to them our requirements. And we signed, like I said, an MOU with them, explaining that if they were to take money from the workers, anything of that sort, then immediately we will cancel the MOU. However, we always talk to them and we give them some briefing, we explain to them what our requirements are, and we understand that it is difficult. What they have done together with Aziz and myself is they will tell us what the breakdown is. Aziz also does his research and tells us how much it costs for them to actually send workers here. So the accommodation before the recruitment, the process of bringing the workers from the village to the agent for us to interview them, the transportation, the lodging, and for food So we come to an agreement, and even for the passport, right? So we work with their NGO for the reason that sometimes the workers are afraid to speak to us, thinking that we are employers and that we may actually be wanting to find out if they've paid money, which is a norm in most countries, and then we won't take them. So this is the reason we get involved with the local NGOs. On whether the Malaysian government and the sourcing country government, whether they are making any incentives, yes. Now I think in Malaysia there was, I'm not sure if you all heard about it, but there was a very big case of forced labor. And so what happened is the Malaysian government has also begun to come up with different policies on how do we actually, what incentives can we give? So what they're saying is that it's okay to use local agents, but how do you get these local agents to not collect money from the workers? So is it happening in the source country? Yes, it is as well. So we work with Nepal and Indonesia. And as Aziz has said, we work with the Labour Ministry in Indonesia very closely. And they have come up, they do check with the workers, they give them a briefing before they send them to Malaysia, they do orientation programs, they talk to them, to the workers. And as far as the agents are concerned, that is something that we do with them. And we don't immediately say, okay, you've collected money, you're a bad agent, and we eliminate them. No, we actually sit with them and explain why, and we ask them what is the actual amount of money to be paid. As Magali said, even the agents are running a business. So it would not be fair for us to just eliminate them that way. Did I answer your first two questions, sir? Okay, thank you. On the expansion to our suppliers, yes, we have begun expanding to our suppliers. What we do is we've called our suppliers and we have given them some background of what human rights is about, what is forced labor, what is child labor, and to explain to them why we don't want to do this. And so far it has been encouraging. The replies we've got are very encouraging. Did we force them to do RBA? We did not. But we did tell them that they are welcome to come and they can get in touch with RHSF. Because in Malaysia, our working hours is slightly different. So, and so because of that, some people are wondering, how do we fit in with certain regulations? Now, I think the most important thing for us was to ensure that the rights of the people are taken care of, that we don't bring them and we lock them in, basically. We restrict them, they cannot move, they cannot go out, they're not supposed to have a life. And basically their life means getting up at 6 o'clock, coming to the factory, working, and going home and just staying inside the hostels. So what we explained to our suppliers is that just like us, they have rights. On the question of advantages of direct recruitment, I 100% agree with you. The reason for the attrition of the 1% is because when you go there, you're able to see them, you are able to speak to them, you see the body language, you know what you need. Of course, in my industry, it is very important that we get people who are not colorblind because we make glasses, spectacles that also have color. So that is the only requirement that we state. We don't make a change for, we're not, we will not say, oh, I only need people in their 20s or in their 30s, right? So there's no restriction, male or female, except whatever has been imposed. But generally, you're right. The attrition rate has reduced, one, because of the quality of workers, because you get to interview them, but very much so because when they come, when we interview them, we bring them back, we find out what's going on in their lives. They're not just an employee number anymore. They're not just another face. my team and I, we actually find out what's going on with them. Sometimes they come to us and cry that they've had family members who've passed away. We make sure that they're okay. We send them for counseling. We talk to them. We follow up with them. That's why I said emotional intelligence is important. At the end of the day, just like you and I, they have feelings. And when we reach out to them and we make them feel like they are just as important as our locals, it makes a big difference. We have seen that through our attrition rate, through the production, you will see it, but it takes a lot of effort from our side. That's the answer to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
叶文颂处长，Marketing Director 王佑林委员，叶大华委员，各位在场的业界的先进，与会的贵宾大家好。
好。
那首先我们非常感谢法国在台协会跟法国国界劳动人权组织办理这场研讨会，同时也感谢我们今天所有参与这个研讨会的所有人员，使我们会议圆满的成功。那我个人也学习了不少。那随着国际贸易的蓬勃发展，供应链日益的复杂，我们更不容易辨识其中的人权风险。那对于供应商或者是投资者而言的话，要遵守法令的规范，并且尊重人权是一个更为重要的事情。在全球化的浪潮里面，经济环境的整合之下，对于台湾供应商来讲，从前往欧洲或者是法国来经商的话，尽职调查法，我想已经成为一个检视的基准，任何人都应该要符合这样的一个标准。那近几年来，各国也纷纷的制定的相关的法令，比如说美国的加州供应链透明法，英国跟澳洲的现代能力法，以及加拿大的打击供应链强迫劳动共与童工法案与关税修正法案，以及德国的供应链企业责任法等等。那其中，如果以欧洲为例的话，其实就是要确保企业组织还有它的供应链在全部的生产过程各个环节之中，都要防止强迫劳动的发生。适用现代奴隶法的企业也必须报告营运和供应链中强迫劳动的风险。那这里面也有7项的强制性的标准。那另外，我们也了解欧洲议会在今年通过了新版的欧盟供应链法，新法也涵盖了扩大适用在涉止于欧盟跟全球各地超过250名员工，而且营业额超过4000万元以上欧元的所有企业。那试图要来解决全球供应链中有关于童工剥削问题。所以，因此我们也非常的感谢今天法国议员线上讲述欧盟跟法国尽职调查法的重要规范，不但指出了劳工在供应链中所面临的困境，也让我们台湾的企业可以更加的了解禁止强迫劳动的相关规范。提倡劳动权益一向都是劳动部非常重要的工作之一。那劳动部这边也定期的举办与劳工权益相关的活动。就在上个礼拜，其实劳动部这边也举办了一场企业诚信论坛的活动，我们也邀请了这个人力中介的机构共同的来讨论。那我们也希望协助企业导入劳动权益的保障，重视诚信的价值，特别是促进公司部门的合作，来实现优质环境的目标。劳动部在促进企业建立诚信市场的同时，我们也在乎广大劳工权益的保障。在经济追求发展的同时呢，劳雇合作、同心协作这样子一个连结跟诚信的文化，才是一个创造良好企业文化跟 提升劳工条件的一个最好的途径，这样子也才能达到企业永续经营的目标。那为了保障劳工的权益，在安心、安全跟安稳施政的目标，一向都是劳动部努力的方向。同时，我们也为了要让移工顺利的在台工作跟生活，劳动部也持续的协助提升移工的劳动权益，并且会共同的朝向强迫劳动这样子的一个消除的方向来前进。尤其是扩大直接聘雇的这个范围，以及鼓励雇主的使用，我们也会持续的跟移工的来源国来共同合作。最后，再次感谢我们法国在台协会与法国国界劳动人权组织举办这次的研讨会，同时也谢谢我们的波蒂尔议员线上跟我们分享欧盟跟法国尽职调查法的重要性。那最后，请祝所有的贵宾身体健康，万事如意，谢谢。
Thank you very much for this speech. And now I'd like to welcome Political Advisor and Head of the Political Press and Communication Department of French Office in Taipei, Mr. Vincent Ganel, to deliver closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. 欢迎。
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you to Honorable Speaker from Taiwan's Ministry of Labor, the Director of Cross-Border Workforce, Su Guo. Thank you very much to our French parliamentarian, Dominique Potier, and thank you for representatives from Serve the People Association and Human Resources Without Borders who helped us organize this event. And finally, thank you to companies and investors who shared very helpful insights on the hurdles they are facing on the ground. So I'm very honored to be here representing the French office in Taipei to make the closing remarks on such an important topic for France. I will be very quick since I think everything has been already said by our guests. I just want to emphasize several points of our discussion that we think are very important to mention. First, France, or the French office in Taipei, before the seminar, we were already convinced that gathering all the stakeholders involved was critical to erase forced labor on the ground. So we're already convinced by this approach. As Dominique Potier explained, the spirit of the French national law is to rely on collective intelligence. So we need innovative ideas from NGOs and scholars. We also need the knowledge of companies on global supply chains. And finally, we need the determination from states and governments that we can keep the benefits from globalization while fighting against its cost on human lives. The second lesson from the seminar is that we still have work to do, and that adopting new laws or regulations, though necessary, will not be enough to effectively tackle this issue. So we need to try a different approach, an approach that is more based on the ground and to find innovative solutions to forced labor. And we think this seminar is a very good first step to achieve this. So we need to identify, and this is the work that the NGOs have been doing, we need to identify how forced labor arises from the ground and understand economic and social causes of forced labor. We also need to find concrete actions that can be taken to better implement laws at international and local levels. So, but without the full awareness and commitment of companies, it will be very difficult to achieve anything substantial on this issue. So they are the sole stakeholders to have a comprehensive view on their supply chains, they also have the power to choose which suppliers they want to work with. So it was really critical to hear from companies which hurdles they may face in eliminating forced labor in their supply chains. So finally, I would like to thank Taiwan's Ministry of Labor. Taiwan is a fully integrated economy, well connected with global supply chains. It is also a thriving democracy that is committed to the fight against violation on human rights. This is why France sees Taiwan as an ideal partner to work with on this issue. Back in 2017, when we adopted our national law, we never thought that 6 years later we'd be able to embark all our European partners on a journey to adopt a comprehensive law at the national level on due diligence. So I hope this is the first step, but I hope that the French office in Taipei and the Ministry of Labor will be able to experiment together, along with stakeholders we have heard today, new initiatives to improve the situation on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yanel, for your remarks.